Hello, hello. A very good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good day to you. Welcome to another live stream with me, 320 Sim Pilot. Today we're taking the Toliss A340-600 for a flight in America. We're going to go from Houston, where we last landed in the United States. We're going to go from Houston up to Denver in Colorado, which features the longest runway in North America, which I did not realize until looking around for this stream. I hope you're all doing very well. Thank you for coming along. It's good to see you. It's a lovely sunny evening here in the UK, unusually, although it is freezing cold and blasting wind, so that sort of makes up for it. But yeah, so quite happy to be in the warm and streaming. Great to see you all here on both YouTube and Twitch. You're welcome to join us on either platform, but good to see you. Matteo Chewy, thanks for coming along to moderate, along with Richard V. Thanks, Richard, and thanks for putting the route into the chat. Hopefully the Cloudbot will wake up at some point in the near future. Yeah, you're obviously very welcome to fly along. I'll be on VATSIM for this flight if you would like to. Gabriel B says, still wish Delta didn't cancel their A340 orders. Indeed, yeah. So this is a fictional livery. This did not really happen. This livery clearly based on the sort of late 60s, 70s liveries that Delta used, which I think is just lovely and totally fits in with our channel's love of cheat lines. So it works really nicely, and it seems to work especially nicely on the 340-600, one of the few liveries that does. Thank you for the follow to JSCP. But yeah, so they didn't have any 340s. Our list of airlines that did have the 340-600 is upsettingly small. So we're going to have to obviously continue our reputation as the least accurate flight sim channel on YouTube. But here we are. So Dave Guyman, good to see you as well. Vucci 2, no worries for missing out today. We'll see you on the next one. Martin Scott, I hope you're doing well. Pilot Olaf, good to see you. Astro Zhu, I hope you're doing well. Chickpoint, good to have you here. Danny Adams says, I went to my first flight in 2 years this week, and thanks to you and Flight Sim, I have no anxiety for the first time in my life because I understood how everything worked. Sounds lame, I know, haha. No, very good, Danny. Thank you so much for coming along, and if it helped, then that's great. That would be really good to hear. So I hope you. I'm glad you enjoyed your flight, which is great to see people back in the skies. Elliot, good to have you. Ralph Scopiran, good to see you. Tom Corwine, Ed Haslam, great to have you all here as usual. Mike's Basement says I'm over Canada on the way across the pond, so won't join in. No problem at all. Yaroslav, I hope you're doing well. Alex Vanderpaar, good to see you here. Alex Nightingale, Jacob, Max, loads of you. Thank you all for coming along. And right, I'm going to merge the chats. Mr. Banana, good to see you over on Twitch. I hope you're doing very well. And we've got Kenyan Flyer there, and Chickpoint and Pilot Olaf are both on Twitch as well. Excellent. So 2-hour flight time today, 38,000 feet. Not too unusual from what we normally do, really. I wanted to go from Houston to Los Angeles, but I'm trying to get to Los Angeles across America. But America's really, really big, it turns out, and it takes forever to get across it. So it was going to be something like 3 hours to get from Houston to Los Angeles, which is just a little bit too far for an afternoon stream. So we are going to head over to Denver. So Mr. Banana says, does someone know why Denver felt the need to build a 16,000-foot runway? So longest runway in North America is 4.8 kilometers or 4.6 kilometers. Oh, I've already forgotten that. Wikipedia facts were a strength of the channel once upon a time. It is 4.8 kilometers, 4,800 meters. For context, London runways, the longest at Heathrow, about 4 kilometers. So it's significantly longer. The reason will be, I'm assuming Denver is a high up airfield. So that will mean that the density altitude is very high, and therefore it needs longer runways for the performance to get these airplanes in the air, because the air is thinner, so you need more distance. You get the same thing in hot countries like in the Middle East, where they'll have very long runways, much longer than Heathrow's, and the reason is that the airplanes need more time to get in the air when it's so hot, because again the air density is very thin by comparison. There you go, Matthew Presley, thanks. 5,000 feet above sea level is the altitude for Denver, so that would explain that one. So it's Hudson says, known as the Mile Half City, which it is, yeah. Great. The livery, if you'd like this livery, it's in the description on YouTube, Max. I have not put it into Cloudbot at the moment, but yeah. Lush Ledge, good to see you as well. I hope you're doing very well. And okay. And also Denver's hot. There you go, so it can be hot in the summer. Jonathan Gunthazer, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Great to have you here. Right. I'm going to be using the Windwing A3XX grip for this one, and we are going to start from cold and dark. I haven't got any of the charts ready. I've just realised. I'm hoping I have got the overlay set up. So Toliss A340-600 came out a little while ago now, but it was one I was looking forward to for a long time, and I really like it. I don't know what everyone else's opinions are on it. I don't see it much these days. You know, flight sim. When I started the YouTube channel, for the longest time, flight sim had been very stagnant. So we didn't really have many releases. The big Airbus was the Flight Sim Labs P3D A320 family, and so on. And then we got the Toliss came out for X-Plane, and that was a bit of a shake-up there. But there wasn't really much going on. There was a handful of airplanes that you needed to fly. And it's amazing how that's changed. And now 2 years later, we sort of can't keep up with all the releases. So I don't know if people are still enjoying the 340-600, but I certainly wanted to fly it again. I've been having trouble with ground handling deluxe today. It keeps crashing. Unusual, because it's been very good normally, but it does keep disappearing, and that probably means we're going to lose all our nice liveries as well. Yes, but yeah, it's I think it's great. Its texturing is okay, but it was at launch it was criticised, and now it's been updated, and it's still okay. But there's just some areas like the tail here that it's fine. It's functional. It doesn't quite live up to some of the other things we have seen around. And what I would like to see, I don't know if any of you remember, there was a company that made really ridiculously, I've totally forgotten the name. They were FSX, Microsoft Flight Simulator X liveries, and they made a super high detail 4K liveries just for normal aircraft like the Captain Sim 757, and if you put one of those on, it just elevated the add-on. It looked incredible. I'd like to see that for the Toliss A340. This is a big airplane to texture. Toliss have done an amazing job with the airplane. It flies beautifully, the cockpit's beautiful, it looks great, the animations are great, the wheels work great. Just like somebody to go around and just give it like a load of polish on the texturing. But I understand that's an incredibly difficult thing to do. But there we go. Thanks for the follow to VB770. And Infinite224 super chatted £4.49. Very kind. Thank you, Infinite. Says, still doing my ATPL theory. Keep pushing out them amazing videos. Very informative, and they motivate me to achieve my end goal. Thanks so much, Infinite224. Very generous. I'm sure you'll get there. Now you're deep into the ATPL theories. Yeah, there's a few months of pain, but it's good stuff, and you'll realise that some of it's very useful, and some of it you probably won't need to use so much later on. But it's just one of those hoops we have to get through. So good luck with those, and thanks so much for your very generous selection. Really appreciate it. Very kind. So that's my thoughts on the 340. I love it. I love flying it. I think they've done an amazing job. The animations, the wing flex, the gear animations, the systems, the taxi camera. They put loads of amazing stuff into it. Just if we could get, I wish I remember the name of that company. I don't know. I was hoping somebody might remember. But just some angles, it just can look a little bit flat on the exterior shots. But there we go. Right, Ethan's Aviation. Good to see you. McFat, was it McFat? I think it was Matthew Presley. Yeah, I think that was the company. Yeah, well remembered. McFat. Yeah, that was them. McFat is well, great. Yeah. That's the ones. They did these ridiculous repaints of aeroplanes. Right, here we go then. Oh, I said cold and dark. We're not quite. You can hear the GPU downstairs. First of all, let me just bring up the correct chart, which is Houston to Denver. Thanks for the follow. Gabriel B says, A340 on domestic route is quite strange. Yes, we're going to imagine that there's some sort of reason. Maybe there's a conference. There's a big South Park conference going on in Denver, Colorado. So we're going to have to take a lot of passengers today. To be honest, in America, don't they fly 777s across these routes? I mean, wouldn't surprise me. Jean-Pierre says, watching SA A340-600 taking off from Tambo. 4,421 metre runway and using most of it. I bet it does, yeah. Yeah. Checkpoint can't gossip anymore. Oh dear. We'll have to keep quiet. Right. So, what is that noise? Why have we got such a loud GPU? So we're running with external power on both. Okay, that's fine. And I did have a full checklist, which I have totally failed to bring with me. So just give me 1 second. I'll be back in just a moment with that checklist, and then we'll get powered up. That's very bad. Oh, it's gone again. See, we're having a lot of trouble with the ground handling. So just 1 moment. Right, we are back. Sorry about that. I've only done that once before, but still very embarrassing. I'm so used to having the checklist available. Here we go. Right, I have got it ready. It is essentially an A320 checklist, but yeah, we're going to just make do because it works just fine. Well, no, it is a 340 checklist, but anyway. Right, I want to get rid of that GPU because that's quite annoyingly noisy. So we're going to do the usual engine masters off, mode selection norm, landing lever down, wiper selectors are off, and let's check the batteries, which as you can see were left on. So I can check the voltage up here, all good. But yeah, this is sort of a secured airplane. Though you would turn the batteries off to secure an airplane just in case the GPUs failed, but there we go. The GPUs are on. We can look down here, we've got oxygen. Have we got oil? Ah, it's like the NEOs. So we're going to have to go up here and find the FADEC, engine FADEC ground power. So this uses the Toliss's swiping system where you sort of move the mouse as if it's a gesture, which does work quite well. There's plenty of oil, 18.5, 18.5, 18, 18. Still don't understand why Airbus ever would have designed this. It's one of the few things they... Oh, what have I done there? Oh well. I don't really mind if it stays on. Yeah, I don't know what the risk of leaving it on is really. I don't know why it turns itself off, frankly. But anyway, there we go. So we have oil and we have oxygen, and we need hydraulics, please. Hydraulic systems are all good. Remember, we have 3 hydraulic systems still. Then the green has a second pump in system 4 and the ram air turbine. Plus we have electrical pumps for all 3 systems. So a lot of redundancy in this airplane. The sort of thing you'd build into a long-haul aircraft as opposed to a short-haul one, where we can just land at an airport nearby. This thing is designed to be sitting over the middle of the Pacific with nowhere to go. So it would make sense it's got more options. Good, so that is all done. Then we're going to our flows. Ground control on the recorder. Crew supply was left on, so the previous crew have been very lazy. We'll get some lights on as well. Now you'd normally go 1, 3, 2. That's me being lazy. Come down here. We're going to have... I have fueled, so we can put the seatbelt signs on the emergency exit lights. We're going to put dome lights on. We're going to have the nav lights to system 1, wing lights off, beacon off, strobes to auto. Runway turn lights are going to stay off, landing lights off, and nose lights off. Good. Moving up, cabin pressure in auto, mode selector is in auto as well, probe heat off, anti-ice systems off. But what we will do, let's start up the APUs so we can shut down those horrible GPUs. They aren't that noisy on the flight deck if the windows are closed, but they are that noisy if they're open. They are horrible things, pumping out diesel smoke and everything, although they are more efficient still than using an APU. Thank you again to Infinite224 for the kind donation. Afternoon, Michael John. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, there you go. Michael's favourite Airbus as well. So APU is up and running, or it's on the way. Sorry. I like the APU fuel use message. Very good. Thanks for the follow, HCBR. Good. So batteries are on. All the other electrics are on. All the fuel pumps on. It is a mess of fuel pumps up here. And then we have the engine tests. All working well. Camera systems are all on. VHF3, flight controls, yeah, all good. Funnily enough, they do use very different names, prim, sec. I assume that's not spoiler and elevator control, and that's secondary and primary, but I don't know for sure. Primary, secondary, not sure. Thank you, JW Cruz, for the follow. Good, ventilation and engine manual style, well, we're not doing that. Great, so that's all set up. We're going to set up the FCU later on once we're more prepared for the flight. Coming down here, we need to make sure we have the ECAM switching DMC to auto. And what's that one underneath? That is the ECAM ND to norm. Yeah, there we go. Anti-skid nose steering on. Disarm the auto brakes. Takeoff is here for later. Terrain in the ND. We don't quite have that accumulator pressure. It's slightly low there. Now, on the little Airbus, that would be a yellow electrical pump. So if we go up to the hydraulics... Running it's a little bit risky, but we'll do it. We'll imagine that we've checked that no one's around the airplane. Is it done on the yellow system? Where's the accumulator? Oh, excuse me. No. Blue. There it goes. Flew on this airplane. Christy says, yes, prim and sex in the 340 are for 3 primary and 2 secondary. There you go. Thanks very much, Chris. Yeah, I agreed with Matthew. Yeah, so those GPU units you can hear chugging away. That's what they're like on in real life. They're horrible, but they usually you can't hear them on the flight deck. So we now have the APU available. I'm going to get rid of external power A and external power B. And then I'm going to say goodbye to those horrible things. No, thank you. Good. And we're boarding, so let's get APU bleed air running. Good. Right, we've got the accumulator and brake pressure looking good. We'll come down here. Got the lights on. Floodlights on. Great. Weather radar is off. And transponder is going to be on my side. Standby. Set it to above and standby. Flaps are up, and that agrees with the positions. Retract and disarm on the speed brakes. Oh, excuse me. Is that norm? Brake on. Rudder trim 0. Alternate gear is not here. Alternate gear for some reason is over here. Not an issue for us today. Good. Okay. So that's all coming together. Time to load up the airplane. This would happen obviously in the meantime. Why can I still hear a GPU? That's very upsetting. We got chocks on. I must remember that as well. Ah, it's part of GHD. Right. That's a relief. Get rid of that. Don't know what was going on then. Just the visuals seem to be crashing. Good. So airplane, we're going heavy. I wanted 400 passengers today, just for my own amusement. I've never carried anything close to 400 in one airplane, so that's a quite fun number to reach. Gives us a zero fuel weight of 238.2 tons. I struggled not to say 20 something. Yeah, so heavy. This is a heavy airplane. Only 30 tons of fuel though. So although we're getting close to the maximum zero fuel, we are not even close to the maximum takeoff weight, as you can see here. Over half of our weight could be fuel on takeoff in this airplane. That's what they're designed for. But we don't need it today. We only needed 24 tons. We're going with 30 tons to account for me messing up and wanting to swap runways, things like that. Kenyon Fly, good to see you on Twitch. Kenyon says, I'm trying to decide between rudder pedals, the choice really in the budget range of the Cytec and Thrustmaster, not the new huge TCA ones. What would you recommend? I would recommend my personal preference. I've tried the cheaper Thrustmaster ones. I think I know the ones you're talking about, and I've tried and I have the Logitech, which would be presumably what you're talking about there, the Cytec ones, and I prefer the Logitech ones. But that's my preference. They're further apart, so that I find that easier to control. You can adjust the tension on them, and therefore you can feel the center point more easily. So that's why I prefer them. Good. Right, so we're loaded up. We've got the fuel, quick fuel, apply load and weight settings, and close that. Time for the MCDU. Going with Trent engines. Lovely. So that was our aircraft status page, the D of diff strip, and then we're going to go to init A. We're going to be the before I do that, what am I doing? We need to start off with the route. So Kilo India Alpha Hotel, which is Houston, and we're going to KDen of Denver. We will be the Delta DAL 307. We're going with passengers of 401, cost index of 69, up to 38,000 feet, with an alternate. What was our alternates? Of, and you guys have to tell me where this is. KCOS. I must be one of the worst research YouTubers as well. I'm terrible. Yeah, well that's the listed alternate. Good. That's the diff flight plan time. So our proposed routes. There is an ATIS available. Let me grab the ATIS and let's grab the weather from here. KIAH. Houston. So lots and lots of runways. It's a light easterly wind, 11 degrees, with altimeter of 3002. So we're going to swap that over, set the QNH as soon as you get it, basically. Something that you do in most airplanes, but yeah, we set it straight away because it's just not something you want to forget. It is in the checklist, but yeah. Good, right. So what we're going to do is just grab the actual ATIS because I think we have a controller online today. We do. And Houston is running an information echo. Temperature 3005, so that's already different. And temperature 19 degrees. And it says departing 15 left on runway 9. That was information echo, and that gives us a wind of 100 at 10. Great. Thanks for the subscription to the Dawn. Real Sim Pilot says, my recommendation would be to save up for the big Thrustmaster ones. Those are the only ones that worked flawlessly for me. In my opinion, the others are not worth the effort. There you go. Aerofly channel, good to see you. Colorado Springs, thanks very much, Matthew, and many, many pandas. That's the alternate we're going with. Colorado Springs, very good. Sounds very nice, very pleasant. Typing Squirrel says, have you ever flown to Oxford Kidlington, and do you like the blue colour in the Airbus cockpit, and do you like planes? I like planes. I don't mind the blue. I wouldn't mind the tan brown either. And I'll keep quiet for question 1. Warlad says, hope everyone is well. Good to see you, Warlad. Thanks for joining us. Good. So that gives us no, it doesn't give us much of a clue actually. I'm just going to set up a departure for now, and then we'll work it out. So 15 left or runway 9. What do we actually want? Do I have... No, I don't have my hotkey for this one. What do we want? Let's bring up the airport charts. We're on the north side up here. I had a really hard time trying to find a stand that would fit us, so I went with Charlie 15. I'm not even sure if it would, but it looked like it's close enough worked. So we want... Runway 9 is just here, but that's not really just there. We're going to go a long way round. And the alternative was 15 left. So we want runway 15 left for sure. That's going to be the easiest choice for us. And that is a massive runway at 3,700 meters. And with an easterly wind, that's still a bit of a headwind. So let's put in 15 left and hope we get that. There is a trick to this. If you can't get your clearance, often when you're setting up, in real life this happens a lot, you'll be setting up your departures and you may not be able to get your clearance because a lot of air traffic control, they won't give you the departure runway, especially in an airport with lots of runways like this, until you actually say you're ready to go. What you sometimes worth doing is brief both of them so you have an idea, but you can we're going with the stick, there we go, via, which one is it via, and then you set up the one that's closest. So in this case I'm going to set up for runway 15 left. If they don't give it to us whilst we're taxiing out, or maybe they give us 09 and then we're going to request it while we're taxiing, it could be that we could accept it. Whereas if we have to go all the way to 9, then it's a longer taxi and we've got more time to change it. So setting up for the one that's closest and therefore will give you the least time can be advantageous, is what I'm trying to say there in a very complicated way. Okay, right. So we're looking for our departure now. 70 different departures, so we're going to find, it's not the 8, that's what we planned for, it's going to be the 7 effectively. So keep going, keep going, keep going. Unbelievable. Wow. Well, I missed it anyway. So they're sort of the transitions. Unbelievable. Right, 6, where's 7? I normally have these ready, so I do apologise. 6. Have I gone right past it? Was it the first chart? It seems to be for several airports here. Sure, we've had this before in America. Let's stick 7. The reason I want to find the chart is because I can't work out what transition it should be. We're going to go to Dolly. So actually, no, I can. I'm going to put Dolly in and just insert it. Oh, there you go. Surprise, surprise. This is America. So take off 600 feet, overfly the waypoint with that little delta, which you'll remember from my overfly tutorial. And then off we go. I'm going to have to give up on this. It's not really worth it, is it, for a straight ahead? It's probably not named correctly on here. Nope, give up on that for now then. Oh, look at that chart, unbelievable. Oh, it's now the stick 8. Okay, so this is meaning that I have not updated this properly. That's fine. We'll go with the 8. Thanks very much. To none shall pass. Look at this. Ugh. That's the procedure in text. And remember, if you get this wrong, it's all on you. If you pick the wrong chart and read one number wrong, it's all on you. Air traffic control will shout at you, potentially, hopefully not, and they'll be able to just file it against you. So there we go, we're going to go straight ahead. There's the inset, 600 feet, and then off we go. And hopefully that is what we've got. MSA 3.1, nothing too shocking. Away we go. Airport elevation 100 feet, which matches what our altimeters say, 100 feet. So that's a good sign that our QNH is correct. Good, and we're going by Toliss. So that is the start of our route. Thank goodness. From Toliss, there's the waypoints as expected. We're going to go straight to Fuzz. And then we're going to go to SPS. Oh, no. SPS. We're going to Halen. We haven't done this for a while. We've been so busy doing VOR flying. I also appreciate we haven't been on Microsoft Flight Simulator for a while. I was going to use it today, and then I couldn't even get it to turn on yesterday. There was something wrong with it. So we gave up on that, and it was a good excuse to use the Toliss, which I wanted to do anyway. But we will be back in Microsoft Flight Simulator soon, to any of you wondering. Okay, so it looks like the Nix is no longer the 3, or it is no longer the 1 and is now the 3. And we'll figure the rest of that out when we get there. Work out the transitions. But so far, the naming conventions in America, completely clueless on me. I find it really confusing. I suppose because they just don't link up. I'm used to fitting a sort of jigsaw together, and these ones don't seem to work like that. It's just sort of, they just expect you to be vectored. Secondary, it's going to be copy, radnav. I'm going to let it auto-tune. Init B, let's load it up. We've got 2 minutes to get out of here. That's not good. You wouldn't ever do that in real life. You wouldn't sit there and say, this is a very important part of the procedure, so you're never going to sit there and actually say something as daft as that, because that's just ridiculous time pressure to put on yourself. This is a bit we focus in on, so yeah, let's get it right. So we've got our weight set. We've got a departure runway of 15 left. We're going with flaps 2. And here we go. So we've got 0 fuel weight of 238.2. Still struggling with that. And a 0 fuel weight CG, 23.6. That goes in. We've got a block fuel. I'm going to take it from here. 30 tons now. Very light. Take away 267 tons. Gives us an extra 4 tons. We've got a trip fuel of 16.4. So this is all making sense. So finally then, perf page. 15 left. We're not going to have any takeoff shifts. We're going to use the full length. Flaps are going to be set to 2 with a trim of up 3.3. Oh. Good. Flex temp 60. Oh no, it doesn't like it in this airplane. F60 for some reason. Still haven't worked out why. Could it be to stop you accidentally confusing it with the shift, maybe? I'm not sure. And then we're going to go to speeds. We're going to have 158, so these are fast speeds. I imagine we're going to see quite a lot of the runway roll under us before we get in the air. Although maybe we're light enough, it won't matter. With the 4 engines propelling us. 162, clean of 227. Great. So 58, 58, 62, 227. That's a PAX on takeoff, flex takeoff as well. That's all loaded up. Great. We're on the APU. Passenger signs are on. They're all loaded up. So the airplane's almost ready to go. Good. Put the terrain on. And let's just have constraints. And I'm going to set that to VOR, which it is. And let's just finally then, let's double check those charts for what we expect to do. Run a bit of a brief. So we're squeezed onto this stand here. We're going to push back. Dave Hagan says, good evening, enjoying a can of beer and decided to watch the stream. Excellent. We'll enjoy it. And thanks for coming along. Agent says F60 to differentiate flex from direct. I see. That's more complicated than we're used to on the short haul. Good. Pushback. Hopefully for 1-5 left. We'll get our clearance shortly. Head out. Whiskey will be full length departure from there. And then take off on this departure where we go down to 600 feet and then get vectored by air traffic up to these waypoints to fly this departure. We'll be above MSA by 3,100 feet. We need to get a cleared altitude off air traffic, which the Americans do in a totally different way. We'd have it written on the charts, although it does say stop altitude 16,000, or top altitude, sorry, it doesn't say stop. So I'm not sure if that's a clearance or not. Transition altitude, like everywhere in America, 18,000. So I'm going to just wind this to something higher than us so that I get a sensible looking PFD. And then 5.9 is just to remind me that that's not a cleared altitude for now. But that is above the MSA. Good. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And then off we go along our routes. Flap 2 takeoff. The things about the 340, the original Big Mac says, followed. Thanks very much. Yeah, things about 340 include that after engine start, it will automatically set the trim to try and avoid tail strikes. It does have its own version of rotate law, and we're going to do flap 2, which it sounds like from what people are saying when this was released, that seemed to be a typical SOP for airlines that had this to try and avoid the tail strike risk. Although I do not think it was a limitation. I think this airplane was quite allowed to take off flap 1 as far as I can tell. Good. Our minimum clean speed is quite fast at 227, but that's nothing for this airplane. It can keep flap 1 plus F all the way to 233. And look at that, flap 1, so just the slats up to 280 knots, which you would need if we were full of fuel for a proper long-haul flight. Also, look at that, flap full limit speed, 200 knots. So this is yeah, quite a capable, well-built machine. Right, let's get some doors closed up as our ground equipment did not work. Close, please. Close, 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 close. Please, Toliss, please add select all. That would be great. Okay, they're closing up. We're going to call the tug.
Great news, Captain. Your tow's coming.
Excellent. Love the American voice. Okay, and we're going to tune. Oh, excuse me. Where's it gone? There we go. We're going to tune ground 1217.
Great, no worries.
Now connecting downstairs. And let's get this right. We are Delta 307, altimeter 3005, A340, and what are we on? We are, I forgot the stand, Charlie 15. Here's the ground, good afternoon. Delta 307, stand Charlie 15, information echo,
right.
altimeter 3005, 340-600, request clearance to Denver.
Delta 307, Houston ground. You are cleared to the Denver International Airport via the Stick 8 departure. Dolly transition and then as filed. Climb maintain 4,000. Expect flight level 380, 10 minutes after departure. Departure will be on 120.05, squawk 1575.
Delta 307, cleared to Denver via the Stick 8 departure, transition Dolly. Climb maintain altitude 4,000 feet, expect 380, 10 minutes after departure. Departure on 120.05, squawk 1575.
And Delta 307 readback is correct. Advise and ready to push and start.
We'll go Delta 307. And sorry, can you confirm which runway we can expect?
You will be on 15 left.
Great, thank you. Perfect. So
Northwest 253 ready taxi.
Stick 8. We know we have the 7, but it's the same thing. Squawk 1575 and 4,000 feet.
Via November
And you'll see there,
Whiskey.
I wasn't sure when we'd find out about the runway, so I just asked. And they'd rather you do that and get it right. We could, of course, just stop and block the taxiway because we're a long-haul airplane. There's the thing about long-haul is it just feels like more of an event. So, there you go, they're about to get out of the way because we're going to block everything. And we don't really fit on this stand. You can see we're overhanging the road.
You can go ahead and line up on spot 12. 1-2.
Right, before start checklist then, let's run that. So cockpit prep is completed, gear pins, covers removed, signs are on and auto. ADs are all set to nav. Fuel quantity, we've got our 30 tons just under now. Got a 30 APU actually. Takeoff data is set on both sides, so we'll have perf and flight plan on the PM side. And Barra F is set to 3002 3 times, which gives us 100 feet. Great. Delta 307 request push and start from Charlie 50.
And Delta 307, push and start approved, nose facing north.
Push start approved, nose facing north, Delta 307, thanks. Good, beacon on.
Delta 307, that's not, I'm looking at the map layout, if that's not feasible, you can push straight back and then we can turn you when we taxi.
Thanks very much, we'll do a straight push, Delta 307. Perfect. Yeah. I like to think I worked that one out, but I got that wrong, but there we go. Good, so.
Airbus 340,
windows, doors,
in your path now.
Close.
Once he's cleared, you can follow the
Cross
traffic.
levers are at idle.
November Bravo, Whiskey,
Beacon
Whiskey,
is on.
15 left.
Parking brake to go. So,
Roger, we'll follow the A340.
now remember, as pilots, we wouldn't know what's going on behind us. There's another 340 over there, the northwest, that's cool. Excellent. Let's do
Hey,
the
Captain,
pushback.
let me know where you want this thing.
So he said straight push and then we'll head out this way. So let's put ourselves just onto the middle taxiway here. That seems like the easiest
Delta 2486, Alpha 14 ready for push and start.
option.
Welcome aboard, Captain. Toes connected, bypass pins inserted. Go ahead and kill the parking brake when you're ready to go.
Go and kill the
Delta
parking brake.
2486.
Right,
can you
brakes released.
repeat the gate number.
Start the mission clock.
We're at Alpha 14 for 26.
Doors are armed. It's happening.
Delta 2486.
Yeah, we don't need to select
push and start is
the
approved.
heading up here
Nose
because
facing north.
it's going to fly nav initially. Let's zoom in a bit. Show
Push
you.
and start
So
approved,
15 left,
nose facing
take off,
north, Delta
straight ahead,
346.
and then we'll get vectors from there. Chocks.
Here comes the
Thanks for the
pushback. Light
subscription,
'em up.
Tamajan. Mr. Espresso, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, you made it in time. Right, well, we've been instructed to light them up. So, here we go. Start engine 3 and 4.
Eastern ground, Frontier 761 is ready for taxi.
Frontier 761, taxi Romeo Bravo to spot 2.
Nanchapar says, one thing I have noticed is that USA pilots generally state their call sign at the end of the radio call. EU generally state it at the beginning of the call.
Romeo Bravo to spot 2.
So Nanchapar said, you'll hear a lot of Lufthansa crews all stated at the start. In the clearances, I say it at the start because they've told my call sign in the clearance, so I read it back at the start. But at the first call, and normally from now on, I will put it at the end because it's in the response, and I'll sign it off with my call
And
sign.
Northwest 253,
But
contact Houston.
Lufthansa,
departure,
you'll
have a great
notice,
flight.
will nearly always say it at the start, so I'm assuming it's their SOP. Christy is saying that we should have 149 because the chart says 149. So let me just address that. The chart doesn't quite say that. I suppose it does. So off we go, 149 heading above 600 feet. And this little continuous arrow just means it's a continuous vector into the infinite. So that's what we need to obey. If you look on the navigation display, or if I look into the flight plan of the Airbus, it's got 600 feet and then manual. And then it's just going to carry on heading off. Now it does say bearing 176, but I can see here it's a straight line. So what we would do in real life, instead of select, you could pre-select the heading. There's nothing wrong with that. So what you're saying is not incorrect, but what I'm going to do is just let the airplane fly it itself. And when it gets to the discon, it's got a manual leg, so it will carry on. Oh, there it is. Sorry, heading 149. And so I'll let it carry on and do that. Even if it didn't, we could just clear the next waypoint and just have this discontinuity. And what it would do is, after it passes the last waypoint, it would just carry on whatever heading it was on.
Go ahead and set your parking brake.
Anyway, I've been talking too long. Brakes are set.
And we're disconnecting
engine 1 and 2.
Give me just a moment.
Taylor Swift, thank you so much for the $1 tip. Taylor
Delta
Swift says,
2486, when ready, you can line up on spot 6.
I'm assuming that's a lyric from Taylor Swift. So thank you very much for contributing that to us. Disconnect. I don't think I can see it all, but yeah, thank you very much for the $1 tip to Taylor Swift and for sharing that art. Right, I've scrolled back too far in the chat, so I do apologise. Mariner Harry says, love the Toliss staff, excellent.
And we're disconnected. Signal and pin on the right. Take it easy and have a safe flight.
There we go. Off they go over there. You'd be amazed how often we sit there waiting for that. Engines start as normal. It's available. Going back to norm. Then we're going to come up here. I'm going to remove the APU bleed, get rid of the APU. Then we're going to arm the ground spoilers, reset the rudder trim, and the flaps are going to 2. Then we're going to let's check that the trim has set 3.3 up, which it has. There's the hand signal in the wave, so that is good. And I'm going to say thank you very much to Danny Adams for the £1.49 super chat. Really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for the cat sticker. Very good. The first officer cat is not with us today. She is currently snoozing in the other room, but she might choose to come over and hassle us, probably on approach, just as I need to start using the rudder pedals again. But there we go. Right, so that is now done. We're going to start getting in the way soon. After such it's anti-ice not required. ECAM status is checked. Pitch trim is set, and rudder trim is at 0. There it is. So after such check is complete. Let's go. Delta 307, request taxi.
Delta 307, taxi runway 15 left via November Charlie, Whiskey Victor.
Taxi to 15 left via November Charlie, Whiskey Victor, Delta 307.
Delta 307, correction, it's going to be November Charlie, Whiskey Whiskey.
November Charlie, Whiskey Whiskey, Delta 307, thanks. No problem at all. So, now we're going to get this one right. He wants us on November Charlie. We're sort of in the ramp, but I'm going to go. I can't do a U-turn to get onto it. That's November Charlie. So we're going to head around and then hop onto it, and then we're going to take. I think someone's waiting on us there, and then we're going to swap down to Whiskey Whiskey, which we knew was our full length. So November Charlie, big area there. Whiskey Whiskey.
Frontier
right side clear, left side clear.
Houston ground.
Turn off lights, taxi lights. Brakes released, which is all the way back there. Sorry, I can't really see it very easily.
Frontier 761, it looks like you went in the opposite direction, but no worries. I can actually put you on runway 9, which is just to the south of you. Would you be able to accept runway 9 for departure?
Sorry that I'm missing the chat. Nuncho Pass indeed was watching Lufthansa real world flights, yeah.
761,
yeah, they seem to have quite a lot of Lufthansa. There's a lot of Lufthansa videos on YouTube.
Sierra Foxtrot, Sierra Bravo, Sierra Charlie.
Okay. See if we can do this right.
Sierra Foxtrot, Sierra Bravo, Sierra Charlie, Frontier 761.
So we're basically heading over to that line.
Just to clarify, we should be taking a right where you're at now.
Ethan said, not going to lie, I thought the stream was going to be an April Fool's joke. Actually, we can go on this line over here. They've got several ramp lines. This is not too uncommon in bigger airports. They usually name them or give them different colours.
2486.
So we're going to have fun. We're going to head up here, then a right, left, and then Whiskey Whiskey's over there.
Delta
so it's not
2486. taxi to 15 left via November Charlie.
Danny says should have left it on the loading screen for 2 hours. Yeah, that would have been good. Lauren says,
15
Poor Frontier, to be
Charlie,
fair, Houston is a
Whiskey,
bit of a confusing airport with double letter
2486.
taxis. Yeah, they are a bit. They
Delta
are.
307, looks like you're
Thanks for the follow.
still in a non-movement area. You're supposed to get on November Bravo. You need a reroute?
Was that us? Sorry, is that for Delta 307?
Yeah, Delta 307, you're coming up to spot 8. Hold at spot 8 and I'll give you taxi instructions.
Hold it at spot 8. Apologies, Delta 307.
No worries.
What have we done? Where's spot 8? I don't even know where that is. Oh, here it is. Okay. Yeah, well, I couldn't get onto Charlie. He said you need to be on the member. Did you say Bravo just then? So is there anything wrong? Can we not go through that? What does that even mean? I don't know what spot 8 means. It's entirely new on me. Handoff point. But yeah, that's a hold line. Oh, excuse me. So we can cross that line, and there are taxiway lines.
Alright, Delta 307, go ahead and make a right turn onto November Delta, and then left on November Bravo, Whiskey.
Thank you very much. Right turn November Delta, then left November Bravo, Whiskey, Delta 307. Apologies. Okay.
Yep, no worries.
That's going to work out just fine, because that's sort of what I recognise. So we're going right November Delta, and now he wants us to do second left to November Bravo, because November Foxtrot, although it looks tempting, is just the cross line there. So we're going second left, then Bravo, and then Whiskey like that. Now, everyone shout in the chat.
Delta 2486, contact Houston departure. Have a good flight. Over
We're
to departure.
here,
Thanks,
not
sir.
Charlie,
Have a good
Bravo.
day.
Yeah. Okay. Let's make sure we do the right. So this is a huge taxiway, so I assume we can use any of that. At some point we need to do the rest of the flow and the flight controls and so on, but that's all to come, it seems. Astroju says, as you said, you're responsible. I'm reading the charts, so ATC will be angry with you. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the next 340 update will be, Yaroslav. I'm afraid I don't. Lauren B says, the spots where you report to ground that you're ready to taxi. The hold line is to enter the movement area, ground control area. The ramp does not control. He does not control. Yeah, okay. So this is an American thing with, they have ramp controllers. So we're going over to this line. They have ramp controllers that are very, very much separate to taxi or ground control. Whereas in the Europe, we have ground controllers who will taxi you to the gate. You know, the airports just aren't big enough to need separate controllers for the ramp. There are places, Charles de Gaulle would be one, where you do have separate ramp controllers and so on.
Right, then Frontier 761.
So November Bravo, I can see it there, and we are on November Delta.
Departure, we'll
The magic
see.
of X-Plane with its database is very good. That area is definitely non-movement. I still can't understand what that means. Yeah, no, I'm lost. But that's fine. He seems happy with what we're doing. Put the little dot on the line. It's amazing how this airplane on 4 engines at this weight is just trying to run away from us. Constantly having to use the brakes to slow it down. So very odd picture out the windows, but it does work. Okay, let's get some flight controls done. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. By the way, just check out the Toliss' work on here. You've got the different markings for the ailerons. You've got the double ailerons. It's great. So they've done a great job, and we can even see pitch trim 3.3 up, which is good. And rudder, let's just slow right down. There we go. Full right. Full left. Neutral. Good. Mini brief. 1.5 left is over there. Taking off that way straight ahead. Climbing to 4,000 feet. Stop initially. Normal thrust reduction acceleration. We're underweight on takeoff. And it's a flap 2 takeoff. And that's about it, really. Nothing too exciting. We've done that, done that, done that. So let's put the weather radar to auto. Ground clutter suppression to auto. Weather radar on. Predictive wind shear to auto. Transponder to TARA. And we're going to have takeoff on the auto brake. Good. Coming together. So before takeoff checklists, flight controls are checked, flight instruments are checked, briefing is confirmed. Flaps, we have config 2 green and config 2 blue. V1, VR, V2 flex temp, we have, and I'm going to swap this over just so I have it on the PFD. We've got 158, 162 climb, nav blue 152, 4,000 feet, and a flex temperature over here of 60 degrees. And let's not mess this up after causing such chaos. I think Whiskey's there. So how do we get to Whiskey? I'm guessing I'm going to take a left here. ATC is set, ECAM memo is takeoff, and let's do the config. No blue. That is down to the line. Lovely. So we're almost ready to go. That took, oh dear, that took ages. Oh, it wasn't long ago. Doing the hour is always terrible. 329 of you watching along between both platforms, YouTube and Twitch. So thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube, do please leave a like. It makes a big difference to the channel. Really appreciate it. If you are enjoying it, of course. By the way, something I haven't shown much, but if we just scoot in, you do get the taxi camera on all the screens in the cabin. Quite a neat little feature. So we're going left here. Yeah, Lauren V says maybe he thought you were to push all the way back to November Bravo. That's quite possible. That's probably where we went wrong there. Mariner Howley says, this is where I'll be landing tomorrow after a long cross the pond. Can't wait. Excellent. GWL, good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Soldering up my first radio panel. Learning to use MobiFlight and Arduinos. Excellent, GWL. Let us know how it goes. Thanks, Siri, for the follow. Right, we're looking for Whiskey. That's going to be over here. Oh. So first right. That's such a good livery. I really wish they'd bought this airplane and painted it like this. Such a shame they didn't. Whiskey, we are finally on. We've made it. I'm going to leave that camera until line up. I think we're going to need it. So we've done the before takeoff checklist. Cabin's ready. We're ready. Airplane seems to be ready according to the checklist. So I think we're going to call ready. He did give us a departure frequency.
Delta 307 contact, Houston departure, have a great flight.
Houston, departure Delta 307. Thanks for your help. Bye-bye. Right. Let's just bring it to a stop here because we're going to do some radio frequency changes as well. So departure. I was expecting tower. That's ground at 12005. There's only one frequency. That's good. One 2005. Houston, good afternoon. Delta 307, Whiskey, ready for departure.
Delta 307, departure fly heading 030. The wind's 11012, runway 15 left, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 15 left, Delta 307. So that's going to be
Frontier flight 761, confirm direct to Spice.
a normal takeoff, 600 feet will turn 030. That's going to be a left turn. Right. On we go. Lights on. Lights on. Brakes released. Let's go. Clear on the approach. Clear on the TCAS. Thanks to Flying with Pascal for the very kind 2 Swiss francs super chat. Really appreciate it. Have a nice takeoff. Thanks, Flying with Pascal. We shall indeed. Thanks very much for your kind donation. I hope you're doing well. So it's clear on the runway. FedEx over there. We are going to use this chart, I suppose. So it's funny, we're not showing up on it. But 15 left, 600 feet, and then we make the turn to 030. So great, such an event.
2486 left turn heading 310, climb maintain 12,000. Left 310 and 12,000 Delta.
Yeah, this is a lot of taxi fuel. Look at that, barely fits on the runway. I loved seeing these land in real life. They're very awkward looking things with just all their gear dangling out. Right. Camera goes. There we go. Let's take off. Start the clock. 50%. Half side stick. I think it's only the 380 then have to do the half side stick.
Frontier Flight 761, leaving my airspace to the north.
Brakes released. 2 clicks, man. Flex 60. SRS. Order thrusters. This is a much more sprightly takeoff than normal for this sort of airplane. It just doesn't have the fuel. We've got 30 tons. It can hold something like 200. Ridiculous. Right, 80 to 100. Stick to neutral.
Delta 2046 through Spicer.
Oh, we're still using plenty of runway though.
1 more. 36. Delta 2046, proceed direct to Spicer on course.
Blue one. Rotate.
On course, Delta 36.
Up we go. Does not pitch up as much as the 320. Positive climb. Gear up. Nav. There you go. Only 11 degrees. That's what an engine failure would look like in the 320. Out here. Right, there we go. And away we go. $1,500 feet. Climb. Thrust, climb, order thrust.
Delta 307 radar contact, altitude passing.
Passing 2,200 feet, Delta 307.
Delta 307, roger, left turn heading 010, climb maintain 10,000.
Climb maintain 10,000, left turn heading, confirm the heading?
010.
Left turn heading 010, Delta 307.
Delta 2046,
Right,
16,000.
flaps to 1. He wants 10,000, so I'm tempted to put that in first. And we want a heading of 010. So it's a big heading round to the left. It's reverted to heading mode, there you go, as we said it would when it ran out of waypoints. Okay. So we've got now out blue 10,000 and we've got heading mode 010. So if you watch this, although it looks like we couldn't, you know, it looks like we're pretty heavy, so we couldn't get any more speed. But there you go, auto flat retraction happens about 210, so same as the 320. And now we can go all the way to 280 knots, which is just outrageous. Yeah. Right, autopilot 1. Pretty good for default scenery. It's quite believable, as far as I know, for this part of the world, which I don't. Right, well, easy to forget, we are above airspeed. Flaps need to go to 0. We can therefore disarm spoilers, get rid of the nose gear lights, and that's going to be after takeoff. Climb checks, landing gear up, flaps retracted, packs are all on. We did the packs on takeoff, of course, and that's down to the line. Someone's asking, does this airplane have
307, proceed direct to Spicer, climb maintain 16,000.
direct to? Sorry, confirm the waypoint.
Spicer, Sierra Papa, India, Charlie Romeo.
Direct to Spicer, climb maintain 10,000, Delta 307. Do that.
16,000, 16,000.
Oh dear. Apologies there, 16,000, Delta 307.
Delta 2046.
We'll be thrown out of the airspace soon. Thrust climb open climb, out blue 16,000, and nav to Spicer.
Over to com, thanks for your help. Good day,
So that's all good, scroll up the range. Passing through 10,000 now. So does this airplane have the same climb rate issues as some of the famous weaker powered 340s? No, it has proper engines. That's the magic of it. You can see the size of them. So the 340-500 and 600 did not have the same sort of lack of thrust issues, as far as I'm aware, and I'm pretty sure that I'm quite confident in that in saying that. Right, 10,800 climbing up to 16,000. So we're going to turn the landing lights off now. We are going to, I'm going to set that to airport. We can see where Houston Hobby Airport is, how close we came to getting in its way. Zoom out the range a bit. Secondary, I'm going to copy over the active. Just check the fuel's done nothing too crazy. So 2.7 on top of 27.2 would be 28, 29.2 plus 7, 29.9, 30 tons. So that works about right. Nose is nice and low. Accelerating. I'm going to let the passengers go. And there we are. On the way. Thanks so much, Ryan Kelly, for the $1.99. Really appreciate it. Ryan Kelly says, love your channel, Captain. Learn so much. You're very kind of you, Ryan. Really appreciate it. I hope you're doing very well. And thanks so much for that very kind donation. Yeah, thank you again to Ryan Kelly for that donation. Really appreciate it. Glad you like the channel. And Chris, thanks for your subscription. Arjun Hansen, good to see you. Lauren V says, was that diss on the little 340s just your IE CFM bias? It could be. Could be.
Delta 307, leave Marine Space to the north, Houston Tower 5 radar service is terminated. Frequency change approved.
Frequency change approved, Delta 307. Thanks for the help. Bye. My guess, therefore, is we are into open airspace. 1228. So we're now on Unicom, therefore we'll go straight up to our cruise. You can see the traffic ahead of us. I think that was that 340 at the fast in front of us, maybe. We're going very slowly if it is, only 40 miles ahead. We go up to 38,000 and pull, thrust come open climb, and it does this weird thing where it arms out cruise on the long haul aircraft. I don't know why. Certainly in 340. Open climb is like level change indeed, Simon Helmet. It's similar to level change. Signal guy says there's always something humid in the Houston area, but very green and beautiful. Yeah, it is. It's I have been, and it's more green than I expected indeed. Right, we need to go to standard. So standard, standard, and standard, and that's therefore is below the line on our checklist, which says barrow rec, and we've got standard set. Oscar Owen says, good afternoon, Captain. Just wondering if you were planning on taking the DC Designs Concorde for a spin anytime soon. Keep up the ace work, as always. Best. Thanks, Oscar. I don't have it. I don't know at the moment. I don't know. Yeah, I usually go with what people want to see. So there's two airplanes out at the moment, which would be the Rotate MD-11 and the DC Designs Concorde. Now, I have got to fly Concorde on the channel. I've got to do it certainly before 60,000 because it's our 50,000 subscriber special. And I've got absolutely no excuse why that hasn't happened yet. So that's going to probably be the, will in fact be the X-Plane 11 version of the Kalamata Concorde, which is a full fidelity simulation with the INS and everything. So the DC Designs Concorde looks lovely, but I believe it doesn't have some of those systems. Matthew Preston says, don't get me started on Houston, talk about living. Okay. Oh dear. Matthew actually has a couple of night stops he's not too impressed with. Shelley has very kindly super chatted $10 Canadian. Really appreciate it. Shelley says, nice to be flying with you. Haven't donated in a while, so it's time. Thank you so much, Shelley. Really, really kind of you. I hope you're doing very well, and I'm glad you're flying along, and hope you're enjoying the stream. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Very kind. And I hope you're doing well in Canada. Mark Denton, thanks for the subscription. Right. All looking good. So we're running on live time, 18:21 UTC, so 20 past 7 for those of you watching in the UK. That is in approximately just under 2 hours, 1 hour 50 minutes. We might save a bit of time on that. I'll see if I can up the cost of Mexico a bit faster. At the moment we're expecting to cruise at decimal 81. Love it. What's the optimum going to be? 377, so that's what it'll be. We're going to K-Den. I'd love to go to Colorado one day. I've never been. It's on my list of places in America I have to see. Do you ever use QFE in commercial aviation, says Typing Squirrel? Not in Europe. I don't believe they use it in America. There are some parts of the world, China and Russia, where they did for a long time. Russia started to move away from it, and now, obviously, I won't be flying there anytime soon, so I don't know what it is. But yeah, it's rare. Only a couple of places use QFE, and the ones that use QFE tended to also use meters. So very confusing, very different, I should say, I suppose. Lauren V says, I told some you guys about your flight. No idea if any said it. So the VE heard about it. Denver is pretty easy. They take off from the east-west runways, land the north-south. Sometimes the inner north-south use for much too. So Lauren, I'd like to land on 16 right. Do you think that's going to be possible? That's the east runway, isn't it? 16 right. The really long one. That's the one I'm hoping for. But thanks for letting them know. QFE still available at military airfields. Indeed, so military flying, yes, they use QFE a lot. Don't know why, but they just do. I don't mind QFE, I don't have an objection to it, but it's just confusing if you swap between them. So it says only 8.1, throw that cost next away, or manually call for 8.4. Aha, okay, so yeah, we're going to go a bit faster. Ricardo says, Captain, do you use X-plane sensitivity curves with your rudder pedals? Ooh, great question. I don't think I do. I don't often add in sensitivity curves. There's only a few airplanes I've done that for, and I usually say if I have. But for rudder pedals, I don't think so. You don't use rudder pedals much, to be honest, in airplanes like this. That's confession on that. Slowly catching our colleague. Certainly out climbing them. Seth says, I watched an A350 take off and at acceleration altitude they moved the thrust levers to climb and the FMA said decline in vertical mode. What does that mean? I don't know. That's something we don't have, so yeah, that must be a new thing. I did not see that in the new one. Apparently an airplane squawks 7700. I hope that resolves itself relatively simply. I'm sure it will. Squawking 7700 is the thing that, you know, there's lots of reasons you could end up doing it. It's very rare. Obviously, it's very rare. Hence, it gets attention when it happens. But even the times it happens, it doesn't mean the airplane is in completely out of control or anything like that. It's just some circumstances dictate it. N. Kasana asked on takeoff, do you still press brakes before bringing out the gear like in smaller aircraft? So it's a good question. No. Airplanes like the commercial airliners for a long time now have had an automatic brake application before raising the gear. So when the gear comes into the wheel well, because it all folds inwards, there'll be huge gyroscopic force, so you don't want it spinning whilst trying to move it against its sort of spinning axes. So yeah, no. The airplane automatically does that for us. Lauren says decline, derated climb, sounds like a long haul run. Yeah, it could be derated, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why you'd do a derated climb. Maybe they do. There is a disadvantage to derating a climb, which would obviously be that you'd get up to your cruising altitude slower, so it had to be a carefully balanced piece of maths to work out what's better, to climb slower and save fuel like that, or to climb quicker and get into the thinner air. I really don't know what the answer would be. So 160 normal landing runway. Excellent, good news. Michael Nash says, hey Captain, I'm flying my first across the pond tomorrow. Does the Airbus have an RTA function? Is it simulated in the Toliss 321 NEO? If not, what procedures do you recommend to get around it? RTA, required time of arrival. Is that what we're talking about here? You can tell how much I use it. So, to those of you wondering if that's right, what I'm saying there, required time of arrival is when we tell the airplane, I want to arrive at a waypoint at a certain time. Not used on short haul because we don't have that sort of restriction. What it's used for is if you're about to send a load of airplanes over the ocean, over the Pacific or the Atlantic, hence across the pond, then you're going to be setting them up at certain distances, and we want to get those airplanes as close together as possible without being too close. Because too close, we break the rules, it's not safe. Too far apart, it's not efficient, we could have got more airplanes on the route. So how do we do that? Well, what we do is we tell those airplanes before they enter an uncontrolled part of flight, i.e. before they start heading over the Atlantic, there'll be a waypoint which is their oceanic entry. It's just whatever waypoint happens to be that day. They'll be told that they must pass that waypoint at a certain time and altitude. And yeah, absolutely, including the short haul Airbus. I remember checking it quite recently. I'm going to forget how to do it now. You can put in a required time of arrival. Must be this side. I promise you can do it. Now, if I can remember how to get to it, that's another question. It just says RTA. Where on earth is that normally left? Oh, it's totally doable. We never ever have to do it on short haul. I'm sure we've done it in the... Maybe it's not simulated in the Toliss then, but the real little Airbus can do it. All of them. Yeah. Again, a very over-engineered airplane, really. There's our last 1,000 feet to go. We're almost up at 38,000. 35 minutes after pushback. Not bad. Plus there says, very interesting, I never thought about the gyroscopic effects of the retracting spinning gear. Yes, so big gyroscopic forces on the gear on airplanes of this size, even the 320. You just wouldn't want it. It would rip the whole thing apart. I don't know if it would rip it apart, but it would be very unpleasant. Oh, there we go. Christy says they have the rated climb modes on the 330-340. Climb per page. Thanks, Chris. So there you go. They do have derating climbs. This aircraft is payware. Matthew Presley says a lot of times ATC, we're talking about squawks earlier here, emergency squawks. Matthew Presley says a lot of times ATC will actually tag you as an emergency without you saying it, but maybe that's just how it works over here. Mac out stuff. Yeah, air traffic don't mind, you know, but if you do declare an emergency, you might not put squawk for the emergency squawk. You might think, oh, it's okay. And air traffic might say, please put the squawk because they want you to be flagged up for other controllers. It just gives a lot of controllers will see that on their screen and know that something's up, and therefore it can prepare them for the phone call coming from the air traffic controller running the next sector, as it were. So it makes sense, but there's lots of reasons pilots won't do it. Pilots are sort of averse to doing it. We try to... Pilots don't like escalation, so you can sometimes get a sense that pilots are resistant to declaring a mayday, perhaps, when actually it would have just been easier to just do that and get air traffic control aware that you've got an actual problem. It happens in general aviation a lot as well, less so in commercial aviation because we're a little bit more... well, this is all my opinion now. Everything I'm saying here is entirely my opinion. In commercial aviation, we tend to treat air traffic control with a bit more... I think we're better at these days, treating them like they need to help us. Whereas there can be a sense, I think, in some general aviation, if you watch some incident case studies, this is where I'm getting this from, I think it's from the Air Safety Institute on YouTube, they have some great animated case studies where they talk in detail about reports of general aviation accidents. And there is a sense of, on several of them I've seen, the pilot trying not to make a nuisance of themselves to air traffic control. They feel like they've done something wrong here, and then they therefore want to either hide that from air traffic control or not burden air traffic control, and then they end up in a field somewhere or worse. So that's part of that is a bit of an issue, and that does happen in commercial aviation as well, but to a lesser extent because we're used to air traffic control and we're used to Class A airspace and asking for things that we want. Right, we are in beat. 135, 175.
620 for 2046. United.
What is this? FTW Centre, is that? What? What's that mean? I don't know the centres. Air Safety Institute was that channel I was talking about, Peter.
2486, radar contact at 55 miles to the east of Waco, VOR, flyable 3.
Let me know how that gain sound is, if that's better. And hello to Peter 4. Thanks for joining us. Fort Worth.
Fort Worth Center, Frontier Flight 1103, flight level 3.
Is that better? Can you still hear the airplane? Does it sound nicer?
Frontier Flight 1103, Fort Worth Center, good morning, sir. Squawk 2665, 2665.
Central Pass says the gyroscopic effects of the gear retracting automatically contributed to a crash of a smaller Beech 1900. Interesting, I did not know that. Fort Worth Centre, Delta 307, flight level 380 to Dolly.
Flight level 400.
Disaster.
74, hello, squawk 6573, 6573.
Let's up the cost next.
Squawk 6573, Northwest 253. And name for those for Delta 307.
So this is interesting.
Northwest 253, your squawk code is 52445244.
Someone else took our call. Easily done.
Sorry. All good, and Delta 307, it's 6573 for the squawk code, 6503.
Squawk 6503, Delta 307, thanks. Hello. Cool.
103, radar contact 98 to the west of El Dorado, VOR, flight level 360, welcome. Frontier 1103. And Fort Worth Center, good morning, Southwest 41.
This controller's busy. 6503, there we go. Sound is much better. Thanks, Retreat. Sorry, I'm sorry, everyone. Every stream, do tell me if the audio is not right. What happens is each airplane has its own sort of streaming profile in X-Plane, and so some of them have not been updated. And I had, for a long time, we were running with sound levels too low, so we tried to increase them, and obviously I increased it too much there. So, apologies. I've already stopped talking usually on outside shots of the airplane. Cabin's nice and quiet on this airplane though. One of the quietest cabins in the sky until the 380 came along. And Kasana says, Captain, I know the accepted principle is after V1 you take whatever problem you have into the air, but would there ever be a scenario where you reject the takeoff? After V1? No. No.
Radar contact about 50 miles to the east of the Waco VOR, flight level 3801.
Thanks, Delta 307. I suppose that's where we are, I don't know. He said we're east.
Southwest 41 32,
So, must be VOR over here.
About 50 miles to the northwest of the St. Angelo VOR.
Never heard a controller identify where we are. And there we go. 600 miles to go.
Glad to be here.
Let's up it a bit. 300. What cost next can we get out of this airplane? 84. Oh no. Yeah. 84 seems to be the most it wants to go to. It seems quick enough. Ground speed of 463 knots. Not bad. Did I load the wind in? I have a horrible feeling I didn't. No, it didn't work. Ah, yes, it is. Good. Does know. We've got quite a strong wind. Must be a bit of a jet stream. 90 knots across us here. Bit disappointing. That's giving us a big drift angle and therefore will be slowing us down considerably. We'll see if we catch and overtake our colleagues over there at 3.6. If they are our colleagues, I'm not sure if they're going the same way. But yeah, to answer the question about V1, no, there's nothing we do to take off. There's no rejecting a takeoff after V1. It's just an absolute rule, and the authorities are very twitchy about anyone that does. It's got to be, yeah. The answer is no, basically.
Frontier Flight 761 Fort Center, good morning, squawk 2323, 2323. Book 2323, Frontier 761. Fort Worth
Tom Corwin says, I always set Costinex 25 for lack of knowing what else to set it. So most airlines will have a set Costinex. So they will just run with that every sector. And if they know that the flight's going to be early, then they might set it to 0. And that's it. So the Beech 1900D was due to overloading, CG being aft outside of limits, and improperly set up elevator linkages that limited down elevator throw. They took off and pitched up very high. They may have had a possible chance of saving until the gear was retracted, which made all of the existing problems much worse. That's interesting. I remember that crash actually. I think I've seen the air crash investigations on it. I thought it was because the gear moving changed the centre of gravity as well. Did that contribute as well? Yeah, as ever, lots of things contributed to that. Very sad indeed. Astro's U says, rejecting after V1 would only be if you physically cannot take off. Exactly, yeah, which is essentially a crash at that point.
Descend on the book for the arrival.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Matthew says, there's always a situation where you would be forced to abort above V1, jammed elevator, etc. But yeah, the plane needs to be physically incapable of flight to justify. Exactly, and that's why there's no decision making that can go into that until it's taken out of your hands. If you can't get the airplane in the air, then that's that. Same for both engines being gone. But those aren't train situations. They're not considered realistic. It has happened, but you can probably count on one hand the amount of times that's happened in the 60 years of commercial aviation. Mazoto says, can the weather radars of two airplanes flying close to each other interfere with one another? Funnily enough, yes. Maybe not the other airplanes' weather radars, they're not really that strong, but you can sometimes get pinged by ground radars, and you'll have your weather radar sweeping left and right on the screen, and then you'll just get a line of return, like a really strong line that goes straight to the airplane, which will be another radar sweeping at you, and your radar picking up its transmissions. Yeah, that can happen. They don't tend to. They're never a problem. It's not enough to actually upset your ability to use the radar. Frosty, thanks for the follow, and Mississippi, thanks for the subscription, if I didn't say. Last Stage says, I'm not sure if I asked this before, but is there a noticeable difference in how two airplanes of the same type handle? No, there isn't. Not on any airplane I've flown, including German aviation. Well, some of the German aviation aircraft is possible if they're a bit more worn out or something, but they shouldn't really be. But German aviation maybe, airliners no. They're held up to a maintenance standard that means that just doesn't happen. Now, if they're different fits, then they can be different. So you've got 320 NEOs, obviously, and the old engines, or you've got Sharklets. But if they're exactly the same, no, they should be the same. Which is interesting. You'd think there'd be some variation, but I've flown many Airbuses, and I can't say I could pick one or remember one doing something different unless it's broken. Yeah, we're going to overtake the Frontier 320s. There we go. The Frontier 320s is what's beneath us, Delta and Frontier. So yeah, we're going to whiz by at 8.4. We're doing great time. Ryanair apparently used Costinex 6. There you go. That would explain their slow descent speeds. Birdman says, hi Captain, do you ever get dangerously high tailwinds at high altitude, not just landing? You can get high tailwinds, you can get 100 knot tailwinds, and they're not dangerous in themselves. What's risky about a strong tailwind, there's two problems with it. The first one is going to be, what if it disappears? So if we were in a jet stream now, blowing us along at 100 knots, and then suddenly that jet stream goes lower than we are, or it turns off to the side, then you're going to suddenly come out of this massive tailwind and into a huge headwind. And it won't be a headwind, but if you think you've got a 100 knot tailwind, and then you compare that to still air, that would be like going from still air into a 100 knot headwind. It's a difference in wind speed of 100 knots. So that is where a tailwind could be dangerous, and that's where you can get some severe turbulence, sudden changes like that. So that would be the concern of a really strong tailwind, is that when does it end and what's that going to be like? And if we were in this situation and we hit the end of a strong tailwind, so gaining 100 knots over a short space of time, and it doesn't need to be 100 knots. Remember, if you gain 10 knots in a short space of time, that would put us into overspeed if it's happened quickly enough. That's just 10 knots, you know. So yeah, you're dealing with big numbers up here, and this is why we have to pay attention the whole time someone's going to be flying the airplane, because it could happen. Worse is, of course, the reverse, which is you fly in calm winds and suddenly you start picking up a strong tailwind. So if we started to gain a 30 knot tailwind over sort of a minute, then that's going to drop our speed right the way back to 240 knots and potentially into a low speed event, and we might have to descend the airplane. So strong tailwinds have their own risks, absolutely, but once you're in them, no, you can have as strong a tailwind as you like. In fact, it has happened. They've had some airplanes almost reach the speed of sound in terms of how fast they're moving over the ground because of strong tailwinds. But again, it comes with the risk of tailwinds. Apparently EasyJet used Costanex 4, says Harvey. Critic says, have you ever felt sleepy while flying a long journey flight? What do you or other pilots do in such situations? Most airlines have a policy for how crew can get some rest in quiet parts of the flight, but that will depend on the airline. So there are, it's not such an issue on shorter flights, and we don't tend to fly as much in the window of circadian low, which is the overnight stuff where your body is just trying to go to sleep. And it doesn't care whether it's tired or whether it's had sleep earlier. It just says it's this time of day and your circadian rhythm changes and your body tries to go to bed. That's the tough stuff, and that's what long-haul crews are used to, and they will have ways to control that rest. Typically, one pilot can sleep while the other pilot flies, but that's with everybody on the flight deck still. If it's a proper long-haul flight that goes far enough, there'll be 3 pilots, and one of them can actually be in proper bed while the other 2 fly. Jeff, thank you so much. Jeff, Weber Actor, for the $20 US. Really appreciate it, Jeff. That's very kind of you. I hope you're doing well. I can't see any message, but there's Jeff says, greetings from Texas. I truly enjoy my new favourite t-shirt and coffee mug. I get a lot of questions about both from my friends. Jeff, thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for grabbing the mug and the t-shirt. Thanks so much for the $20. Really, very kind. Really appreciate it. I hope you're doing very well today, and great to have you here on the stream. I'm glad you're enjoying the mug. Yeah, I like the mug. I've still got my mug obviously downstairs. It's great. Yeah, really, very kind. Thank you, Jeff. You're welcome, Birdman. Evening, panel learner. Good to see you. Owen says, I'm the 321 NEO in front of you. Got a screenshot of you. Where should it go in the Discord? You can put it into X-Plane 11 screenshots, I suppose, in the spotters gallery.
November 7-2, Romeo Mike 4 Center. Good morning, sir. Squawk 3461.
Where are you?
Squawk 3461 for Challenger 723 Romeo Mike.
Is anyone behind us? Have we overtaken anyone yet?
3 Romeo Mike, radar contact level 39.
No, still in front of us. There we are. Delta. 2486. We're catching 10 miles to go.
7, unfortunately, you are leaving airspace to the west. Albuquerque is offline, so continue to come 12 to 818. 1228, 4117.
T7 driver says, can the engines on the 320 be changed after delivery? Example, delivered with CFMs, can they be swapped to IAE? Now, you'd have to ask our engineer window seat if that ever happens. I've never heard of that happening. I don't know if there's different fuel lines and things that would mean that that's too expensive to be worth it. Certainly different avionics and different buttons, because there's we have in IAE aircraft N1 mode switches that aren't in CFM, so you'd have to change some of the panels. But I suppose you could change the panel here, you could change the avionics version. So the question is, are they compatible for bleed air systems and all that? I would guess so, otherwise it wouldn't be worth making 2 versions. But I don't know, I really don't know, and I don't know if it's ever been done. Great question though. If window seat joins us, we'll have to ask. TW Gustav says, kind of cool to catch you. This is my day off. But then I noticed that you are flying to KDN about 30 miles south east from here. I'll try to get outside and wave. Thanks very much, Gustav. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, great. It's great fun when we we have people. I think Orlando we had several people living nearby, and Houston as well actually. I've not flown the space shuttle in sim. No, not in X-plane. No. There's a lot of 757s climbing up below now. Also headed to Denver, says R&B. Excellent. So we're going to be filtered in some traffic, possibly a bit of holding then. We'll see. We might be ahead of them though. I think we're faster than a 75 because we are a proper long-haul airplane. But the 75 is by no means slow. Certainly quicker than the Airbuses. Short-haul Airbuses, sorry. Adam says, flying a short-haul flight from Heathrow to Edinburgh while watching you, multitasking at its best, wanting to do a turnaround, and know you're doing a video on this soon. Any idea when it's out? Ah, you'd like... Well, I don't have a video on turnarounds immediately ready. Have I not done it? I guess I haven't. Turnarounds. Yeah, I'll give that a think. That's a good idea. Sorry, Adam, but no, there's not one ready, so not ready soon. Certainly not in time for your turnaround today, but I will, add it to the list. Thanks, Owen. Picture in the Discords. Apparently we're showing up as Virgin aircraft. Okay. Mark says, might be a silly question, but how do flight sims feel compared to flying real? Is the plane realism close in its reaction? Depends on the airplane, Mark. It depends on the airplane. The Toliss 321 feels great if you have the right hardware. But there's two things, aren't there, to how an airplane feels to fly. One is its performance, so what we see on the screen. So that is, how it climbs, descends, how much thrust it needs to do certain things, how much thrust it needs on approach. And then there's the other side, which is the hardware that you're using. So it's very hard to say any airplane in a sim feels like the real thing because the controls usually feel nothing like it. Much lighter usually. The Windwing A3XX grip, if you have the Super Libra base, feels very good. Much closer to the real Airbus stick because it's got good dampening and good weight to it. So that combined with like a Toliss feels really good. And I imagine P3D feels good. But that's my experience with the Airbus. There's other aircraft. I have flown full motion 757 sims before, and the flight factor 757 in X-plane is excellent at replicating the power and thrust and so on. But of course, I don't have a 757 yoke, which is a big metal-heavy yoke. So whether or not it feels like the real airplane is tricky to say. I think some developers do a very good job, though. Get very close. Lauren B says, holding in America? No way that's happening with 4 landing runways. Okay, excellent. Where are they? Where's our target? There they are. Yeah, so that's this question about across the pond. Am I allowed to fly transatlantic from a non-event airport to a non-event airport? Good question. I don't know, I'm afraid. Matthew Presley says, we were approved to intermix engine subvariants CF34s from the CRJ 200, 700 and 900, but that's not quite the same, it's a completely different engine. There you go. So I believe that I think it's quite normal to deal with an engine swap in the family, so 321 to a 19. So those again are subvariants, but ultimately the same engine. CFM or IE. Peter says you did the turnarounds. Ah, I did do the turnaround. Thanks, Peter. Arjun says, have you flown many small planes and do you have a favourite? I've not flown many, but I've flown all the usual suspects. PA-28, Cessna 172, 152. Seneca, Twin Comanche, Cub, Grumman A5. I liked the Grumman A5 a lot. That is a lovely airplane. Yeah, I liked the Seneca a lot as well, actually. But that's probably part of liking big multi-engine airplanes more than anything else.
6655, you're coming to the Las Vegas airport by the Pool 5 departure for a transition as filed. Maintain 10,000, expect flight level 36010 minutes after departure. Departure is going to be with me, and your squawk code is 3262.
Alright, clear to Las Vegas, the J-Pool 5, Hori transition that is filed. 10,000 initial, 360 at 10, departure with you, and 3262, the squawk for Delta 6655 Heavy.
Delta 6655 Heavy, the read back is direct, runway 17 right for departure. Call me once you're ready.
I'm just thinking about its required time of arrival.
3006.
It should be here. It's a vertical revision. It's obviously not functioning at the moment. I don't know why. I thought it was. So I don't know if it's in the Toliss 321. So anybody else flying one at the moment, perhaps our colleague ahead of us might be able to check. If they go to a waypoint in their flight plan and click on the right-hand side key, maybe a waypoint ahead of you, not your current waypoint perhaps, and just see if it says RT. It should say RTA, and then you can select it. If you can, that's all you have to do, and then you can type in a time, and it says at, and you type it in. Richard B says, I'm pretty sure you've done a turnaround video. I thought I had. Adam says, you mentioned doing a turnaround video on your what happens after landing. So I did the taxi in after landing, but I haven't maybe done the actual turnaround. Okay, thanks, Adrian. I do apologise. Sorry, Adam. Yeah. Oh no, and then Richard's found it.
American 2599, descend to maintain 3000, region 3000, turn right heading 090.
Turnaround tutorial. There you go. 7th of Jan 21. A year ago now. Wow, it's amazing. I landed somewhere in the snow. I don't remember filming that at all. There it is. Yeah, talks about realigning the IRSs. Cockpit looks very different to how it does now. Oh, I've even got screenshots of screen grabs of SimBrief. This is a very different version of the fly-by-wire. Yeah, it's amazing how much it's changed. So there we go. That is available. Shows how much I can remember. I don't know how many videos we've done now. DH, thanks so much for your $5 tip. Really appreciate it. DH says, hey Captain, thanks for all your content. I have a question. Sorry, it's a weird one, but I do wonder. Do the sick bags provided on planes ever get used? And if so, what happens to it after? Does the unfortunate passenger have to keep it? That is, yeah, that is an unusual question, but you don't have to apologise. That's a good question. That will depend on what happens. Now, obviously, that's not something I see very often. I'm not in the cabin. So, do they get used? Yes. They'll get used by either passengers who are ill for their own reasons. We won't talk about this for too long, don't worry, everyone. Ill for their own reasons, or they are ill because of flight air sickness. No worries, Adam. I forgot about that as well. So you'll find them get used more often in turbulence or holding in. Usually, if there's no view of the outside world, so you're in clouds bouncing around, that can make people feel a bit sick. Do they get used? Yes. What do you do with them then? They'll go in the bin. They'll go in the bin. It's that simple. There we go, just get cleared out of the way into a sort of hygienic way. I'm pretty sure they go in the bin anyway. I've never had to dispose of one, luckily. So if there's any crew in the chat, they might know.
Expect 4005 departures with you, squawk 2304. We're in a taxi.
6 Golf Delta, read back. And Sim, taxi. American 2599, turn right heading 160.
But yeah, thank you very much, DH, for the very kind $5 tip. Really appreciate it.
Heading 160 and followed by 185, American 2599.
Yeah, sorry with that late turn there.
Stubaca's just got the Velocity 1 yoke. About to take it for a test flight. Enjoy. It's good fun, that. That would be good for the MD-11 because it's got several axes. You've got 3 axes that you could use for the throttles. Jeff says, is the 340 frame rate heavy? I'm the joint of getting it as I already have 2 TCA quadrants. Wow, well if you have 2 TCA quadrants, then it's hard to see. This is such a good plane for that. Is it frame rate heavy? A little bit heavier than the others, I'd hazard a guess. Mainly coming down to the extra features like having this camera. It doesn't work now. But what Toliss have done is there is a way... Am I getting confused here? You can inhibit cabin objects and you can inhibit in-seat screens, and these 2 things will provide better frames. Yes, because when I first got this, I remember having low frame rates if you're using extra scenery. So I was at Heathrow scenery with London Orbex and this airplane, and it was too much. But you could turn off those things, which helped. Yeah. So they do have some options, but if you don't use those, it is a little bit heavier. Greetings from Hong Kong, says Peter Tan. Good to see you, Peter. I hope things are going well for you over in Hong Kong. UGC plus 8, again a later night for you, yeah. Richard V says the 340 is slightly heavier on frame rate than the others. Oh yeah, Richard's already answered it perfectly. Apologies, I'm running behind as ever. Arjun says, once I have some money, I'm going to try and get my license for these small planes. Would be awesome. Yeah, expensive, but it is awesome. I don't do general aviation flying primarily because of the price. I'd do it if it was cheap. Chrisana says, do you ever get used to turbulence in light GA aircraft? I experienced scary turbulence when I was finishing my PPL and have taken a break for a moment before continuing my CPL. Yeah, that's a good point. So it's obviously hard if you've had an event that is particularly upsetting. So if you fly through some scary turbulence or severe turbulence, like anything, it can be a bit nerve-wracking. So do you get used to it in light aircraft? When I was finishing my PPL. Okay, so that's a question for you, really. I couldn't tell you whether you get used to it or not. But the question is knowing just what to do with it, how to get through it, how to ride it out, how to make sure you're prepared for it. So if you can deal with it as a process driven. So what's scary about flying through turbulence? Because what's bothering us about it? Why do we find it distressing to fly through turbulence? And I did before I was a commercial pilot. I was nervous of turbulence. So why is that? Well, for a lot of people, it's going to be the lack of control and the sense that the airplane isn't under control, and therefore, what's the airplane going to do? Well, it's going to fall out of the sky. It would be people's concern. That's the extrapolation in your head. So if you try and think of it more as, well, what's actually happening with the turbulence? Well, the plane's shaking around like it's going over a bumpy road, or like it's in the sea and it's going over up and down waves. Your car's not going to flip over going over a bumpy road. It's just not very nice to sit in. So turbulence is not dangerous to an airplane, particularly commercial aircraft, but in general aviation, it's going to be about, well, how have you found this turbulence? Is it being caused by just a windy day? Is it being caused by terrain nearby? Can we move away from that terrain? And you can manage it in other ways, more process stuff. So what's my pilot operating handbook say about entering severe turbulence? What should I do? Securing myself into my seat, make sure I've got my seatbelt on properly while I'm flying around, just in case we meet any turbulence that could shake things around. What will I do if I do meet it? Well, what speed do I need to fly? Can I turn around and go back on myself to get out of it? Things like that. And hopefully that can give you a sense of control over the situation, as opposed to being stuck in the situation. And I totally understand. I have no idea what I'm saying here. I'm just sort of thinking aloud. So don't take this as a professional advice. This is just my thoughts. Now you've brought it up. So when I used to be nervous of turbulence when I was a passenger, I'm not nervous of turbulence now, put it that way. And in small aircraft, it's more noticeable. General aviation airplanes bounce around more. They're lighter. They sit in the lower levels of air, which tend to be turbulent because of the ground anyway. Plus they get thermals and all sorts of other things. So it's rare, in fact, to fly in smooth air in a general aviation plane anyway. So I hope you can get past it, Xana. I hope you can get back in the air and get yourself confident with it, because it's tricky. If you've had an event, I've had nerve-wracking events in other fields, not flying, that have put me off. So I understand the feeling, definitely. And I don't think I've ever talked about. I've talked about scuba diving on the channel before, but I had a bad incident scuba diving. I think I may have mentioned it. So that put me off, and I found it difficult to not let myself go back to that place whenever I go diving subsequently. And it's funny, you'll be with people around you who won't understand why you're not keen to do something, because to them the situation seems fine, but in your mind you're going back to that incident. So it's tricky. It's very tricky. So I hope you can get past it. But thanks for coming along. And yeah. Dougal McTavish, good to see you. Thanks for joining us and coming to moderate over on Twitch. What has Streamlabs been up to on Twitch? Let me have a look.
Take a right and then across runway 18 left and then on kilo to the ramp 750, American 2599.
Is it running? I think it might just be maybe I've got it set to repeat itself too many times. Yeah, it's every 5 minutes. It's probably too much. That's probably my fault. It does say minimum 5 lines though, so I don't know why it's doing that. It shouldn't talk all the time. But good to see you, dude. I hope you're doing very well. Matthew Presley's got a fantastic AML write-up, so that'll be the maintenance log of the aircraft. Looking forward to that, Matthew.
Clear for takeoff, runway heading Delta 6655 Heavy.
Ethan says, what's your opinion on the Rotate MD-11? That's my question for you guys. What's people's thoughts on the Rotate MD-11? I've seen different things. I've looked at a few different live streams of it, just some clips. So I looked up, I think I saw a bit of V1s. I saw a bit of Q8s. So what do people think? There seem to be some bits that were still people were looking to see improvements, and other bits that seem to be fantastic. So you guys tell me if you want to see it. 4 prawns, thank you so much. That's outrageously generous, and 4 prawns has been very generous before. I really appreciate that. It's very kind. $52.45 tip. Really appreciate it. 4 prawns, thank you so much. Normally I would try to donate at max workload, but I missed the setup. Great content, great community, thank you. You're very welcome, 4 prawns. That's again incredibly generous. Really appreciate it. And yes, unfortunately you should have timed that at some point while I was taxiing around Houston, where I was going the wrong way. It would have been perfect. But still, thanks so much. Really very kind, unbelievably generous. Really appreciate it. $52, outrageous. So thanks so much, and I hope you're doing very well, and thanks for joining us. And I totally agree, great community who've just absolutely brilliant. And that's why, some of these streams I do, and this is just a flight airport to airport. Yeah, okay, to me they're interesting airports, but I can understand there's nothing too shocking about these to lots of you. But I just enjoy sitting here and getting to chat about airplanes. Look at all the topics we covered so far. But yeah, thank you again, 4 prawns. Really far too kind, and yeah, great to have you here. So yeah, I'm waiting to hear from you guys whether I need to get the Rotate MD-11. Right, Matthew Presley has posted in the Discord, so do join our Discord, !Discord in chat. It's sort of great. I absolutely love the Discord. I don't always answer things on there, but if you tag me on Discord, I shouldn't encourage this, but people do tag me in things. I promise I see it. Wired Womble, by the way, tagged me. FS Elite posted a review of our preview of the Just Flight 146, which is great. So yeah, thanks for that. And Ed has also, sorry Ed, I didn't answer, I don't think, about the Airbus A340, but yes, very good. What happens is I see those while I'm out and about often. They come up on my phone and I read them, but I don't really have a chance to reply, or it'd be rude of me to ignore whatever I'm doing and go straight into replying on Discord. And then I don't get round to thinking of it later, so I do apologise. But anyway, as I said, I highly recommend it. So we're going to Real Aviation General Chat. Aha, yes. On the subject of sick bags, seat bottom and seat belt soiled. That's not pleasant. Yeah, I mean, that could happen. There's a lot of airplanes flying around. A lot of people could get sick, even flying an airplane, for any number of reasons, including food. That is not much fun. Oh dear. Thanks, Matthew, for that one. Jaden Glenn says, is there an SOP? Sorry, let me give you a better view. Sorry, I'm sitting there. I'm just in chat mode now. It's turned into the radio show. Can you hear me okay like this? I hope so. Jaden says, is there an SOP for recovery from Mach tuck on airliners? No. We don't need to. We don't get that close to the speed of sound. We're only doing 8 something here. Mach tuck is something that happens at faster speeds, and it's more pronounced, I believe, in more swept-wing aircraft. Whether the 747 could get it because of its really sweep wings and its higher speeds, I don't know. KLM, thanks for the follow. Thanks again to 4 Prawns for that very kind donation. But yeah, so no, we have no procedure for Mach tuck. It's not something we'll see. The airplane will have more problems than that by the time you're reaching the speed of sound. For those of you who don't know what Mach tuck is, what happens is, as you reach the speed of sound, closer and closer you get to Mach 1. So we fly around at about Mach 8, sorry, Mach 0.8, so 80% of the speed of sound, roughly. As you get nearer to Mach 1, the speed of sound, you get shock waves form on the airplane. And they'll form on all the leading edges. So airplanes need to be designed to sort that out. And these engines, none of this is designed to go supersonic. As those shockwaves form, they change the airflow of the wing, and they mean the centre of pressure, where the lift is mostly being generated on top of the wing, gets pushed further and further back. That puts the airplane out of trim. What that means is, further back means the lift is coming from behind the airplane, which will mean that the back of the airplane tries to lift, which pushes the nose down, and we get what's called Mach tuck. So aircraft will have a system to counteract that, Mach tuck trim or Mach trim. Concorde, of course, does, because it does go supersonic. All supersonic aircraft will have this all built in, but we don't worry about it. Now the airplane will compensate and it will trim itself and so on, but we don't have a specific procedure for it. We just don't go that fast. I have not done any recent flights in the Junkers 52. No. Otter. Good point. Yeah, we did fly it. It was good fun. Dacro says, doesn't look like there's ATC at Denver. If you want short taxi, use 35 left. I want a long runway, so we're using 16 right, just for my own amusement. Longest runway in North Europe, I want to land on it. Peter Town says, I find turbulence more annoying than nervous, unless I'm just over the fence. Yeah, exactly. Turbulence is mostly annoying. Paul Wilson says, is there anything you'd recommend for anxious passengers? I get claustrophobic in planes and dread long haul. Love your content, thanks. Thanks, Paul, for coming along. I hope I've answered your question, or I'm coming to your question in time. If you're just claustrophobic, then I don't know what to say that would be of any use. I'm not very familiar with claustrophobia in most senses. It's something that you'd need to speak to a professional who deals with that. If it's because you're nervous of flying and you dread long haul because you're finding yourself nervous of being in an aeroplane and that's what's making you feel claustrophobic, then there's fear of flying courses that you can do, which I highly recommend, and they will go through what happens, what we're doing, what happens at each stage of the flight, what the pilots will be doing, and they even sometimes will book actual flights where you can go up in an actual airplane and they'll talk over the PA and tell you what's going on. So EasyJet do those, British Airways do those. I really recommend it, and maybe if you're not in the UK, other countries, I'm sure airlines offer them. And even if you don't get to go in an airplane, they'll have coping strategies and all sorts. So that's what I would recommend if that's what's making you nervous. Thanks for coming along, Paul, though. I hope you get that resolved, because it's no fun dreading things that provide us so much opportunity in life, like being able to fly across the planet in a few hours. So hopefully you can get through that. Stabaka says, I can tell you being in rough seas are worse than turbulence, and I work on the sea for a living. Thankfully neither make me sick. Oh, you're very lucky. I get very seasick very easily. I do not like going in rough seas. Flying for fun, if you'd like to see delivery, it's in the Discord. Let me just give you an outside view. Right, I'm running way behind on chat. Danny Adams says, I've been down the YouTube rabbit hole of cave diving recently. Danny Adams, funnily enough, so have I. Because we were talking about, I got in a bit of an incident scuba diving a few years ago now. So, yeah, I also have ended up seeing lots of dive talk videos, which is not good. Yeah, cave diving is quite something, and certainly not something I'll be trying anytime soon. Adrian had an incident skydiving that put them off a little, and that's the cost. Yeah, it's actually incidents. Obviously, they come back. So we were talking earlier about someone had an incident while flying in general aviation that had hit some turbulence, and it does make you. Yeah, I can understand it's a bit. We were talking about how that incident can sort of haunt you a little bit if you let it. So, Jamlin is making progress on Dan Air 146-300. Lovely, that'd be great, Jamlin. Looking forward to it. And Harry Whittle, indeed, we all love the 340. Right, I apologise, I'm behind the chat, so I'm going to zoom through a bit. So Nick Casana talking about that general aviation turbulence incident. Casana had hot day, 30 degrees, very windy, experienced thermal updrafts, but the worst thing was adverse yaw, but I'm okay now. Excellent, yeah. Yeah, it can be rough. A thermally summer day in general aviation is not fun. If you're flying in commercial aviation and you have a beautiful hot summer's day at 30 degrees, especially in the UK, but in most places, then you start to get thermals, and that can make the last few thousand feet very rough. And it looks like a beautiful day out the window, but it can be really one of the more challenging days to stabilise and approach, because the airplane is just going up and down, and it can mean that speed's going up and down, and it can be quite something. And then you get floated along the runway with hot runways. Dave Guyman says, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Dan Air Virtual, I'd like to welcome you to Birmingham. Hope you enjoyed your flight aboard this Air 2000. Excellent, Dave. I hope you're enjoying that. Dan Air Virtual, now live. You can go and join Dan Air Virtual. Great fun. Set up by Victor Tango and Andy H132 in our Discord. It's really great. The technology for a virtual airline is good. It's just come so far, and it's such a nice, relaxed atmosphere compared to what I was used to. You don't have to complete a certain number of flights and all of this stuff. It's just great. Captain Wazza says, I'd say wait for updates inbound for ND11. Thanks, Captain Wazza. Thanks very much. We'll change frequency, Delta 307. Bye. We're on Unicom. TFN says, good afternoon. What airliners do you recommend for X-Plane? I like the Toliss Airbus series. The Zebo Mod 737 is also superb. I'm also a big fan of the Flight Factor 757 version 2. And this is the Toliss A340, which I love because I love the 340. The Builds Beluga is one of my favourites as well. There's loads. Those are some of my favourites. So some are coping without issues while others fall out of the sky, says Captain Wazza. Okay, so it's instability that we're talking about with the MD-11, is it? Well done, Bonnie Bob, doing first flight of VATSIM. Well, sounds like it went well. Excellent. Tom loves watching the wings flexing. Yeah, me too. Right, I'm way behind. Do apologise. I'm not using ortho, I'm using default scenery. It's gusting 23 in Denver. Thanks, Owen. Backross says, I used to be a scuba instructor in Cancun in 2007. I did some cave diving, but mostly open water. Incredible cave diving there, though. Dear opponents, I do indeed read Twitch chat. I'm just way behind. Both of them get presented to me live as we go through. But there's usually more YouTube chat. What are the numbers like? There are 55 of you on Twitch, so thank you all for coming along. And there's about 200 of you, or a bit less, 170 of you on YouTube. So yeah, thank you all for joining us today. If you are watching on YouTube, a like goes a long way. I can see we've got more likes than viewers at the moment, so that's always a good place to be. So thank you so much. Paul, you're very welcome. No problem at all. I have not tried the Air 4 Labs 172 Mazoto. I have not. I'm not sure if I will. General aviation is great, but I don't know if I'll put the effort in to really enjoy that. And I say put the effort in, it's more of a time thing. Going back to scuba diving, I love scuba diving, and being around the wildlife underwater is just, it's really a unique thing. It's amazing. Mark says, flying Qatar next Friday, Manchester, Doha, Doha, Male. Whoa. 777 and 350. You are getting me excited. First time in Qatar business class. Mark, that is going to be an amazing trip. I'm incredibly, incredibly jealous. Business class on Qatar, and you're going to the Maldives, one of our all-time favourite places and part of where Manta comes from. So, fantastic. Yeah. Enjoy. You will. I mean, that's amazing, Mark. Yeah, unbelievable. The rest of us will stay here in the rain, don't worry. Captain Wazza says, have to say I'm loving the Dana operations. Clocked far too many hours as I'm on my work holiday. Excellent. Yeah, see, the Dana joining the virtual airline, it doesn't pressurise you into doing too many flights to stay a member and so on. It's nice because it just gives you the opportunity to have a focus for your flying without the pressure. It's nice. Captain Wazza has been flying Air 4 Labs 172. It's brilliant. Can't wait for their analog gauge version though. Much prefer Steve Gauge. Well, there you go. It does sound good. I did see some videos. It did look good. Christy says, in turbulent approaches, do you personally like to bug up? No. Unless it's pure crosswind. In the Airbus, ground speed mini means that we don't need to bug up. So, if it's turbulent but the wind is more ahead than across, then I wouldn't even add a knot. You know, the ground speed mini will deal with the gusts by increasing the target speed, and it just means that you have this. It's amazing stability. It's a great piece of design. Yeah. If it's purely crosswind, then you don't get that. Then I would add speed for sure. Right, we're getting close now. How far are we from? There's loads of things we haven't done. I've barely acknowledged the fact this is a 340 and not a 321. So engine display is looking good. How much fuel have we used? Look at that. It's an impressive fuel use figure. Over 12 tons. Well, we can see here, can't we? 13.4 tons of fuel. Unbelievable. These systems are all working fine. So it looks like just 2 packs. Presentation. That's a very recognisable page. I like it. Lots of electrics. 2 electric pages. Very seriously robust hydraulic systems. Massive amount of cabin sections to control. We only got 2 on the Airbus short haul, and lots of wheels and lots of fuel, which you can see out of transfer in progress. It automatically trims out the airplane with the rear tank and puts it back in. It's very clever. I mean, it's just so great. Love it. Right, we're going to Denver. We've got 120 miles till Halen, so we need to figure out our arrival. So is there a controller? That's the first question. No. Good, so we can do what we want to start with, which is great news. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a quick break while we're on the Unicom, and then we'll be back and we will set up for Denver. Enjoy the music. Right, we are back. How are you all doing? Back on the flight deck. Have I missed anything from air traffic? No, we're all good. Jumping into the chat. Where were we? So we talked about bug up. Checkpoint's going to do the first Dan Air flight. Excellent. Remember, for Dan Air Virtual, you don't need to go on VATSIM if you don't want. Adrian says, I visited the UK last weekend and to my surprise it was sunny every day. Are the myths simply not true about all the rain? Sadly, it was last week was completely unusual. We had lovely weather. Temperature got up to 18 degrees and all sorts, and then it's all gone away now. It's freezing cold and drizzling and raining and snowing. So, yeah, sadly, that was unusual. Lauren V says, Delta recently got their first Pratt & Whitney equipped 321 NEO. They're to be based in Boston. Maybe you could fly Boston and Atlanta. Ah, we could do indeed. Glad you guys like the livery. It is indeed a retro livery from Delta in the late 60s, 70s. But it was never applied to this aeroplane. But it was a real livery. Vince says, it's a pleasure getting to join you live on another flight. I love that old Delta widget. Yeah, so there you go, Delta widget. Absolutely, Vince is spot on. I have the history page, actually, because I thought Delta, you know, to us Europeans, this is a bit of a mystery, but it might be more well known in America. But Delta have been around forever, since 1920s, believe it or not. And they had lots of different liveries on their jets when they first got them. And then they went for this livery 1962 to 1997, so for a long time, almost 40 years, they were running with the widget logo. So to me, this is cool and retro, but probably if you live in America, this is just seen this 1,000 times. Then they went to a sort of wavy flag style tail, which wasn't around for long. That was 2000 to 2007, or sorry, 1997 to 2007. And then now they've had this, the current one for a long time. I can't say the current one excites me much. It's okay. Seems nice enough. What's nice is it does have a underbelly that's painted a colour. I don't like it when airlines, unless they've got good reason, I don't like it when airlines just paint the whole fuselage white and then just do tail and engines, which is known as a Euro white livery these days. But I do like it when they put some effort in. -3 tonight in London, coldest April since the Ice Age, says Birdman. Is it really? Goodness me, that's not good. Chris S, thank you so much for your super chat of, that is 200 SEK, which would be Swedish krona, we know that now. That's incredibly generous of you, so thank you so much, really, really appreciate it. I hope you're doing very well. And yeah, that's, again, far too kind, Chris, really, really appreciate it. Chris says, watching the stream is really helping me unwind from the stress of the work week. Thanks, Captain. You're very welcome. It is, of course, Friday evening. I didn't really think of that. Yeah, it's a Friday. So you're incredibly welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for your very kind 200 SEK donation. I hope all is going well for you in Sweden. Absolutely lovely, lovely place to visit. I've been there many times, but yeah, really, really kind. And I hope work resolves itself for you and becomes a bit less stressful soon. Yeah, Friday evening, isn't it? Of course. Very kind. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for joining us. Lauren B likes the current Delta livery, quite clean looking, feels more upscale than the other offerings. The current American livery is a bit cheesy. See, I like the current American livery. I'm one of those that likes it. Jaden says, I'd love to watch you stream in New Zealand, maybe between Auckland and Queenstown for a full view. Indeed, we will do New Zealand, but we're going to wait until we have the ability to do RNAV approaches in the fly-by-wire. We could do it in another airplane, but I'm worried I won't know how to do an RNAV approach. Ugh. Yeah. Discontinuity ahead, says Hudson. Indeed we do, hence this line. So we talked about this earlier. What's it going to do? It'll just carry on the current heading. It'll just revert to heading and just keep on forever like that. But we'll fix that up in a bit. Lauren B says, no, very retro in America as it was retired in the early 90s. You've also forgotten about the interim 90s that came before that. Indeed, yeah. Lauren B's always got all the knowledge on these things. Tadex, good to see you. Hello to you. And thanks again, Chris. Very generous, and I really appreciate it. Delta started by flying crop dusters, not even people or mail. Very good, yeah, usually a lot of them do mail. Hayden J. Robbins, howdy to you. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're doing very well. Vince says, growing up in the airline industry, Dad is a 35-year TWA veteran. I have a special place in my heart for all of these classic liveries. Now, TWA is one of my favourites as well. I like TWA because it has, it was one of the early models I had. A little metal TWA aeroplane. Mark says, how long left in the flight? 1824. Not long, 45 minutes. It goes fast, doesn't it? Not long ago, it said 1 hour 50. Sadly, I don't have any good tips for EASA ATPLs, Peter Tam, but good luck, and I hope they go well. Yeah, I'm too far behind now. It was too long ago I did them. Yaroslav says, I fully understand that Euro white livery is pretty boring, but in my opinion, Lufthansa new livery looks awesome. Fair enough. Everyone, liveries are obviously subjective, so whatever you like. I would say I actually liked the old Lufthansa livery, which won't surprise anybody here. The general rule with me is I preferred the older livery of everything. I recently saw Qatar's retro 777 for the first time. I hadn't realised that was out there, and that is a very nice livery. As well, there is the Alia livery, which Royal Jordanian you have. I don't know if any of you have seen pictures of that, but that is another one that suits us down to the ground here. So Lauren B has a model of the 777 in the interim livery, so you can't forget it. Excellent. Half orange KLM, Arjun likes. There you go. Yeah, no, there's lots of good ones. KLM livery is nice. I do like it. They've put effort into that. Right, I need to solve something here. We need to figure out where we're going. I've been chatting for the whole flight now. So I was expecting to come in by a Nick's arrival. So, arrival. Please only be one. There it is. That's what I like. Nick's Halen. So let's put it in. We've got 16 right ILS, which is what I want to land on. We're doing the Nick's arrival. Wow, my database is really out of date. I've only got Nick's 1. We know that should be hopefully the same. And we're going via none of those waypoints. So what are these waypoints referring to? Are these ILS waypoints? Let's have a look. Yes, they are. Sort of. I really don't know. Kipper, Tushnur, Kale. All with very high mandatory altitudes because this is a high airport. Elevation of the airport, 5,400 feet. Very high. Any best guess? And that's the ILS eventually. Quite a straightforward ILS when we get to it, 7,000 feet. So that's a low platform. That last platform at Jetson is 7,000 feet, which is only 2,000 feet above the runway. So that's a 4.9 mile intercept. So that's a short final segment. So we must not miss that 7,000 feet. We need to make sure we are down there. Usually we're going to get vectored. Okay. So let's leave that out then. So for now, just so that you can all follow through, we're going from Hayden to Corn, Idle, Nix. Now it hasn't loaded any of those in, sadly, so I'm going to put them in myself. I don't know why it hasn't done that. So that is Kilo Oscar Oscar Romeo November, and then Idle, and you can see it drawing on here. India Delta Oscar Lima. This is something you might do if you've accidentally lost part of the arrival because you sequenced wrong or something like that. It's unusual though. It's quite a time-consuming thing to do. Then we clear out discontinuity, and now we match on here what we had up there. So that all looks good. If I go to plan, we can scroll through, and there we go. Look at that. It looks exactly the same. Up we go, and then if we zoom in, we go round the airport, up past Cliff, and then a vector, and then we'll take the vector back round and join the ILS over here onto 16 right. Now, does that work with the current weather? Having got all excited about that runway, let me just check that. No, it doesn't work at all. So we're not landing on 16 right. 04015. So wind is coming from somewhere over here, so that's a strong tailwind, so that's no good, so ignore me. We'll still do the Nick's arrival. But we're going to be on, what's the equivalent of 16 right? 34 left? Let's check it here. 34 left is 16,000 feet long. That's what we want. Let's get rid of that. RS 34 left. There we go. Big tailwind, exactly, yeah. It is common to land aircraft on it. Thanks, Larry. Yeah, it's like Amsterdam. The runway with the longest taxiing is the one they always land on. 18 right. So there we go. We're going to land on this runway. So let's swap this around. Have we reached our top of descent yet? Let's see. How far are we? Oh, well, let's set this up and work it out from there. Plenty of track miles. So we're going to land on 34 left. Oh, that's 34 left. Via Nick's. And then these are the vias. So what's going to work for us? Probably Boss. Via Halen. Boom. Let's see how that looks. So from Halen, so it's now got the waypoints in as we wanted. So that's the same arrival, and then that goes Hagar and in. Boss, Pass, Ajkaz, Cog, Gallo, Merkel. There's some strange waypoints in America. And in we go. Great. So why are there so many waypoints on the final approach? Well, that is for this step descents, 10,000 feet at Merkel. So I'm going to check. This is quite important. Lots of high terrain around. The MSA, look at that, 6,600 foot obstacle. We're landing at 5,400 feet up, so lots and lots of terrain. So we need to get these right. So let's check they are coded correctly. So I'm going to press constraint on the EFIS control. And here they are. Looking good. We've got Boss at 12,000, so hopefully. Hagar at 200s. Boston. Oh, Beeston. Boston 12,000. There it is. Pass is also at 12,000. Then we can go to 11 for Ajkaz, which is in there. Yeah, great. And then 10,000, 10,000. And you'll see here these little magenta asterisks. So those of you who saw my VNAV tutorial, I know it was for the fly-by-wire, but it's still valid stuff for this. This magenta asterisk is telling me it thinks it can make the restrictions. And if the airplane was concerned, it would come up with a message saying path too steep. Now here, it's concerned about the speed. Ooh. It does not think it can make the speed, hence the amber asterisk saying there is a limit there. That limit is 250 knots, and it's saying it's going to be at 320 knots, so it's not going to manage to slow down in time. That's because of the stupidly high cost index I've got in here at 350. So let's put that back to what it was at 69. That'll reduce the speed only by 0.1. Let's see if that's helped. No, it's still too fast. So that's fine. We're going to be fast at the descent point. So that's something I need to be aware of myself. Good. So 5,500 foot altitude, 9,200 feet MSA. So let's put that in. Fix info, den, and I'm going to put a 25 mile ring in. Oh no, not den. Bit of a sneak peek there. We can tell that we are getting close. Right. Oh, excuse me. Oh, don't do this. There we go. Arc, zoom out. A bit more. There's a descent point, which seems sensible, about 120 miles. It's pretty much a straight-in approach, but remember, we're at 38,000 feet. We're actually only at 33,000 feet above the runway. And we have a bit of a headwind, so no major concerns there. More interestingly, is that wind is going to swing all the way around to the other side, so it could be a few bumps in the descent. So what I would expect. Jackie, thanks for the subscription, and Bramish for the follow. So yeah, so a bit of bumps as that wind swings around, although it's not too strong now, it's only 38 knots. So these ascents make sense. We've got the ring. Once we get inside that MSA of 9.2, if we're below 9,200 feet, I need to be on this procedure exactly, which is what I'm going to plan to do. We're going to follow it down, and the threats of this airport, it is high. It's really high. So we are in a heavy long-haul airplane with a high airfield. What's the temperature like as well? Temperature of 6. Okay, temperature's okay. If it was hot, sort of 30 degrees plus 5,000 feet, then that would be really tricky. It means that with the thin air, the airplane's going to be flying faster through the air than we're used to. So our true airspeed, you can see here, our indicated airspeed is 262 knots. Our true airspeed is 475. So that's because the air is so thin up here, it only shows us as 262 knots on the PFD. That's how much lift we're getting out of it, really. And then 475 is how fast we're actually moving through the air, which is calculated by some very clever computers. Now, on approach, it's going to be the same issue. The higher you are, the worse that difference is, because the thinner the air is. So at 5,000 feet, we're going to have the same approach speed. It's not going to change. That's going to be calculated by the computer in here. At the moment, it's showing 150 knots, already pretty fast. And then we're going to be having to consider the fact that our true airspeed is going to be even higher. So we might be moving through the air at 160, 170 knots. Now there's a problem with that, in particular for today, which is that at those speeds, our vertical speed on the approach is going to be very high. I would not be surprised if we have near to 900 to 1,000 feet per minute vertical speed on approach, because we're going to have a ground speed, yeah, look at that, 160 knots would be 850 feet per minute to fly this 3-degree slope. So we're going to have a higher vertical speed than normal on approach. It's also going to be harder to configure the airplane because it's going to have more energy because it's moving through thin air quicker. So for those reasons, we're going to join the glide slope at 8 miles, 7,000 feet. So that's about 2,000 feet above the runway. We're going to, in fact, we need to be careful here. That's only 2,000 feet above the runway. It says 8 miles, but it's not, is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles from the runway, because it's only 2,000 feet. So maybe 6 miles from the runway. So the DME does not seem to line up with the threshold here. I don't know why that is. There it is, 353 ILS DME. Just check it tuned correctly. IDXU 111.9, 354 3 degrees. So that all makes sense. But there we go. Yeah. So another thing to watch out for. So we'll have to make sure we obey our gates well. So at this point, I'm going to fully configure. Basically, 5 miles from the runway, I need to reach 7,000 feet, flap 2. Speed well below 200 knots. I'm going to say let's have the speed at managed flat 2 at 7,000 feet level for this leg. Hitting winter, we're going to configure fully and come down, and that's, I don't even know if that should work out, but this is obviously an aeroplane in an airport I'm not that familiar with, so I'm imagining that will work, but we should find out. Let's load in the weather just so the airplane can calculate its descent properly. Temperature on the ground of 6 degrees Celsius, altimeter 2988, wind 04015. MDA. Oh. RS 5527. Wow, that's ridiculous. Config full for landing. Go in altitude if we need it. Climb on 5,800 feet, then a left turn to 10,000 feet on heading 270, outbound VOR 306 to Heigen. Wow, quite complex. So we've got to go straight ahead to 5.8, then a left turn to 10,000 climbing. So I'm going to put 10,000 in because we don't want to level off until 10. There's a decelerate message as we reach that. That's fine. Good, right. So our first altitude is 12,000 feet. In it goes. Normally we go down to 10, but that's not going to be good enough here. 12,000, and let's do managed thrust idle des out magenta. So in my video I talk about it. Date, thanks for the follow. I talk about in my VNAV video the risk of what we've just done. So we're high on profile. The airplane on the progress page tells us 1,800 feet high. So I know it's going to just shove the nose down, and because I've gone into managed descent, out is magenta. It wants to stop at 190 initially, so it has a different restriction, which is good at idle. Idle is the name of the waypoint, and now it's going to lower the nose and increase the speed. And the aeroplane, certainly the short haul aircraft, have a habit of busting through this because they're very sensitive on elevator, especially at these higher altitudes. So if you do this and there's any turbulence, you just get an overspeed straight away. Now this is doing a good job. I don't know if that's because it's a long-haul airplane or because the Toliss doesn't simulate it, but it could be very different to the short-haul ones. But certainly short-haul, at this point, have a habit of just nosing over and going for an overspeed. So what I would have done in that situation would be an open descent to start off with and then wind up the speed as required. Right, I've been talking a long time there. Hopefully that gives you an idea of our arrival and our approach. Something else to note, and this is my excuse going in early, this makes it difficult to land because we've got high approach speed plus the high true airspeed, plus it's a heavy 340, so I'm just not used to it. But what I will say is, even if this was a smooth landing, and there's nothing to say it will be smooth, but even if it is, the vertical speed on the counter you're going to see is going to be high because we are going to have a higher vertical speed just by the nature of our approach. Right, jumping into the chats and seeing what I've missed. Todex had trouble with the fly-by-wire VNAV trolling and the LNAV going crazy. Yeah, they're still very much in work in progress. Mr. Banana likes the 60s Lufthansa livery they had. Oh, I haven't seen that. Oh, no, I have seen that. Yes, that is good. That was the first time I streamed. First retro livery I streamed on the channel was the very first stream was in the retro Lufthansa livery. Yeah, we flew from Frankfurt. We need an earlier flight if we get an L1011, says Lauren V. Yeah, that'd be great. Olympic livery is a great one. Yeah, I like the old Olympic livery, Ethan's Aviation. It's nearly a year since I streamed the retro Lufthansa. It will be 2 years. It's nearly 2 years. That takes me back. I think I've set up the arrival wrong. Lauren's our air traffic expert, and it sounds like I've done it wrong. Oh yeah, we need to brief the taxi in. Brewery. There's a brewery arrival point. Very good. Very good. You're very welcome, Tatu, for the videos. Thanks for coming along. Denver has the highest number of reported bird strikes for any airport in the US as reported by the FAA. That is interesting. Unusual. Yeah. I wonder why. See how it's getting limited on the speed. It's doing its best. It has made up the profile, but now it can't slow itself down because it's trying to maintain it. It needs to get below it really, which it won't do. And Lauren V says, you do need to configure early here. Last time found myself 5 miles out, 200 knots, not slowing down. Yeah, exactly. The plane does know the difference between DA and MDA. So this is an MDA we're using today. 5527 is not a DA. A DH, sorry. Oh, sorry, no. DA and MDA are the same thing. Decision altitude, minimum descent altitude. Once upon a time, a DA would be used for precision approach, like you say, and MDA would be minimum descent altitude. But these days, it seems... I'm sure there is a technical difference, but they're both altitudes as opposed to heights. Finfly, good to see you. Glad you're enjoying the stream, and I hope all is well in Finland. We did retro Lufthansa into Nuremberg. We did indeed. Was that to celebrate the anniversary of the channel? I think it might have been. I remember that Nuremberg approach. That's still burned into my memory. For those of you who weren't watching, I had a stream. Went to Nuremberg and got in trouble with air traffic control in quite a majorly way. Richard B says we may need a second anniversary stream. Indeed, indeed. Captain Wazza says you did stream in it for your channel's first anniversary. It was my birthday, so I remember well. Very good, Captain Wazza. Arrival is correct now, says RMB. It was while you had it on the other runway. It was being fussy. Yes, perfect. Good. It looks. This makes sense. This arrival. I like it. This is what I like to see. A nice joined up line. This is also where the Airbus is at its best. So you can tell it's been designed by Europeans because it loves a connected line, which seems like a slightly rarer feature in American airports. Look at that, and we get the lights. I didn't know we had that. So this light here, I often get asked how to adjust the lights. You've got these lights under here to control the FCU lighting. So that controls the backlight and that controls the screens. Not making much difference because there's lots of ambient light. But you've also got this light here which controls this, which is a light for your tray table. So that's where you'll do your paperwork. Very good. Nice modelling. Getting towards the clouds. Getting ready for some engine anti-ice. Again, that usually it doesn't do it so much in simulators, but in the real aircraft that increases the idle point of the engines, which means you can actually get yourself a little bit high. We can also see now it's made the profile, it's happy, so it's slowed down slightly because when it's flying a little bit slower, there's less drag, so it can maintain the profile at thrust idle. That's why it has this range, and that's why managed descent is the nicest way to fly. Plus, it's taking into account all of these restrictions for me, so why would I want to interfere? Managed descent is what the Airbus is designed for. The problem with it is if there's any other aeroplanes. Because what if air traffic suddenly says to us now, slow down to 280 knots because there's an airplane in front, which is very common at busy airports. That immediately managed descent goes out the window because we can't use it because it's planning its own thing, and if you're not doing exactly that, it doesn't really know what you're going to do. So you have to then take into account everything yourself. Right, let's set up the plug-in. After landing phase, very important, especially if you're not familiar with the airport. Oh, and I'm just going to write down the altimeter before I forget it. Altimeter 2988. And what I'm going to do, can I set it on here, or is it going to change that on everything? I think I can set it on here. Yeah, let's do it. 2988. There it is. So it's pretty close to standard anyway. Just nice to have it there as a bit of a reminder of what we're trying to set. Dougal says, do you swap controllers over left for right when flying the Tomcat? I fly the Tomcat using my Thrustmaster Warthog, which I only use for DCS, and I fly that right-handed and left-handed on the throttles. Because there's no way to do it otherwise. But that's what I would do by default. Loved the Tomcat. Yeah, it was great fun seeing the team. Dougal recommended they are called the Shadow Display Team. So if any of you who like your DCS, Digital Combat Simulator, they fly formations and they do streams on Twitch, and they are very skilled. They practice their formation flying on there, and I think they have events sort of where you can fly along, which I haven't been to yet, so I'm hoping to jump in the F-14 and try and fly in formation with them at some point and embarrass myself, no doubt. Warhamster, good evening. Oh yes, we're going below transition, so I do need to set standard now. I'm being late on that, and we're going to do... so now it does do them all. 2988. 2988 is set, and on all of them. Again, love the Airbus, reminded us, flashed away, it's just great. I'm going to put KDEN 34 left into the progress page because I don't trust the DME, and that's going to give me a very good reference. That is the distance to the runway. The ILS DME may be a little bit misleading. I'm convinced it's not going to quite line up. Here we are. So 190220 at Nix. We're not making that. It's got its own restrictions for some reason. Oh no, we're past that. Because this section is not to scale. Right, so we're going to Hager, 250 knots between 15,000 and 200. So here you go, the airplane automatically slowing down to 250 knots, and it's not going to go below 15,000. It's just genius. Why would I want to do anything different? Again, all great until air traffic control come along and ruin it by telling us something different. Airport then. There are standardised taxi routes. Please don't be text. I'm not going to do that. Text ones you'd obviously brief, but yeah, we're going to land way out to the sides. Over here, 34 left. We don't want to go all the way down the runway, so I'm going to set a relatively high auto brake. Let's go for auto brakes 3. Good. And then we're going to hopefully make Delta 9. It's a massive, great runway. The longest in North America. Very excited to see it. Delta 9, Whiskey Delta, and then probably left on Foxtrot 8, I suppose. Maybe they'll just backtrack on this runway if they're not using it. And then vacate down here and go and park over on the main terminal. I'm not sure which concourse we should go on, but we'll pick a suitable stand. So vacating off to the right is the key thing there. 13,000 feet is our new descent limit. That's fine. Just let the airplane do that. It won't go below 12,000, which is the lowest I set in the window. But I'm going to say that we're, assuming we're cleared for the ILS, which I'm going to say we are, I'm going to put in the platform altitude of the ILS, excuse me, which is over here. And that is 7,000 feet. So I can just put that in. And it's my job now to monitor it. Right, let's bring up the checklists. Beautiful. Let us give passengers the warning that we're going to land. Landing lights coming on, because I'd say we're getting close to 10,000 feet above the airport. Delta uses concourse B, thank you very much. Or C, we're not sure. Oh, well, we'll see where it ends up at the end. And Dougal's provided the shadow display team Twitch. So yeah, for those DCS fans, there you go. Hammy said, "Oh, we have one of them here in chat." There you go. Very welcome to Hammy. Ah, so is that Warhamster01? Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm going to jump along. So Warhamster says, "Hello, I shall be getting for formation flying tonight by going to the offlines in a moment." Very good. Joe Yip says, "I'm sorry I've not been joining live streams for months. I do really rewatch all of them. Your channel is my all-time favourite. Hopefully I'll be a passenger on your flight in real life." Thanks, Joe Yip. No worries at all. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching the replays. Great to have you here. And hopefully, yeah, see you out there flying one day. It'll be great. Too many runways here, says Arjan. Indeed. Thomas says, "Learned so much from you." Thanks, Thomas. Here we go then. So 14,000 feet below, 230 knots. It's getting to 230 knots now. So we have to be careful here. Two things are going to have to happen. It's going to need to activate the approach phase soon, and it's also going to need to start slowing down further. You can see 210 knots coming up. So we need to be on top of it, because obviously we're going to have to put flaps out to let it do that. I can see in the flight plan the decel point where it should activate the approach phase. I'm assuming it's going to do it at decel in this case. Interesting. Slightly different. I'd expected to see it. Maybe a 340 difference about approaches because of the way they have to configure earlier. Delta today came out of gate A37, says Lauren B. Okay, where would that put us? Is that concourse A then? So down to the south one. I'm going to just use the outer taxiway there, Foxtrot, before finding somewhere to park. Good, so we're well on our way with the ILS now then. Let's run the checklists. Approach checklist briefing is confirmed. ECAM status is checked, no messages. Seatbelts are on. Barra ref, we are on 2988 on all sides. Minima, we've got 5527 set. And engine start selector, we're leaving it where it is. Lovely weather, don't need any of that. We've even avoided the clouds somehow. How's the audio? Can you guys hear the airplane still? A little bit louder maybe. Not sure it matters. All your passengers are just transferring to other flights anyway. There isn't another point to Denver. I'd love to go to Denver. Speed out constraint. So here we go. Now it wants 210 knots. Out constraint. See the speed's 165. So it's actually has activated the approach phase. It isn't even bothering with the 210 because it's activating it. But it's not going to go below green dot. So we've got to go to flat 1. There it is. Which works all the way up to 280, which is really handy. We get a magenta down arrow where it's going to descend to the next leg. He says, but it won't do it yet. I'm surprised. I should expect to see it already. We shall see what happens. So 210 knots. We're doing S speed flat 1. Works out quite nicely. We'll of course need to bring up the LS. And this is the other thing. We're only 7,000 feet above the runway now, so we have to change how we think. We are closer to the MSA than normal, closer to the terrain. Our 10,000 foot memory items, you know, like turning on the lights, giving 10 minutes to the cabin crew and so on, depending how your airline does it. Long haul airplanes don't tend to use 10 minutes. But these don't work when the airfield's this high up, so it does change the dynamic of the flow, and there's a risk that you will remember things but too late. Hey Fred says, sorry, just catching the tail end of the stream, but has the 340 gotten the love that people say it needed? I'll leave that to other people in chat to decide. I like it a lot. There's thrust des. Now this is a mode I'm not familiar with anyway. But there we go, down we go. There's a magenta level off, so it's going to level off at COG, 10,000 feet. It's got to stay there, so it's going to probably expect us to decelerate in that phase. DME says 30 miles out. We are 6,000 feet above the runway, so we're low on profile, so that's good. So we have room to decelerate the aircraft in the meantime. Round we go, lining up with the airports. B-dubs would like to see a great 340 in FS 2020. You have to write to Toliss, see if you can convince them to make an airplane for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I don't want to slow down anymore. 26 miles out. Let's just check how that matches 23. So there we go. As I expected, there's a 3 mile discrepancy between the ILS, DME and our actual distance. I don't know why. That's very unusual. Germany had a lot of that, but that's mostly been removed from German airfields. I'm surprised to see it here. Speed out constraint. It's very confusing, very disorientating. Usually this number should read 0 at the threshold, but here it reads 25. We are actually only 22, so we are 3 miles closer than this says. Not much of an issue here, but if you're configuring the airplane, that can be quite confusing. Especially, let's say you're at 6 miles, and actually you're only at 3. Norfolk, I am using the A3XX side stick from WinWing right now. That's what I'm using today, and I like it. I also like Thrustmaster Warthog, but I use the Thrustmaster for my military stuff. Captain Butters, thanks for following. Butters, a famous character in South Park, which of course is famous for being from here. And thanks, Cax, for the follow. 40 minutes from parking to my driveway. I live in north of Denver in Longmont. It's a stack rolls, there you go. Denver could mean the next US stream is United Express 146 into the mountains. Is that a route? I don't know. That could be good though. Right, glide slope's coming in. I'm going to start slowing the airplane down now. I don't want to be going down the glide slope flap 1, so let's go flaps 2. The reason I want that is because, as you can see, it's only now that the flaps come out. The slats don't give us any drag, so we want the flaps out for the glide slope in these hot and high conditions. It is possible in the short haul airplane to use just the slats down the glide slope, but even that has to be in the right conditions. Here you go. We're actually going through the air. 185 indicated, 215 true. So that is a big difference, more than I thought. We're looking at 30-40 knots difference. There you go, it's re-going into Des. Down it goes. What I do have the option to do now is just let the approach take over. So, lock, Cat 3 dual AP 1+2, glide slope's now armed. United Express flew the 146 out of Denver and into a lot of mountain destinations. Oh, there you go. So, and we've got the 146 in Microsoft Flight Simulator, so we could do some serious procedural flying like that. That could be a good option, including Aspen. Hey Fred says, excellent, not many streamers fly it these days, so I haven't had the opportunity to ask. Yeah, that's it. That's what I was saying earlier, that there's such a release of airplanes that we tend to move on quite quickly these days compared to how it was not that long ago. So I was very keen to fly it again, and I'm glad to have the excuse. I like it a lot. It's got the systems, it's got the reliability, and I was saying earlier, I'd like to see some updated or enhanced texturing. Right, let's go to flaps 3 before we completely miss this one. So 180 knots, 14 miles is okay, but you can see the speed trying to accelerate as we hit the glide slope. There's just not enough drag. The air's too thin. We're doing 180, 206 knot true airspeed, so 26 knots difference at the moment. We're now at idle thrust. I'm going to take the gear. Could be a bit early, but I just want to get this airplane stabilised. So yeah, I think some nice, really detailed, dirtied up textures would look really good on this. And there you go. Well, we definitely could have done that later, but I'm not going to complain because we're not actually at 12 miles, we're only at 9.5. So we'll save flat full a little bit later. Yeah, it is windy. You can see it swinging us around. Now landing this in a crosswind, I have no idea what the procedure is for the 340. I'm assuming it's the same as the 320, i.e. we just use the rudder and the fly-by-wire takes care of the wings, i.e. we don't need to introduce much aileron input on landing. There's a position check 2.5 at 8,000 feet. So we expect that to be 5,500 feet off from normal. 5.5 plus 2.5 is 8, so that is correct. Way too green to be Colorado. It's brown right now, says that across. Yeah, sadly, this is just a default X-plane. I didn't have any special scenery.
Delta 486, 15-mile final runway 35 left, Denver.
Ooh, 3.5 left. Okay. And Denver traffic. Delta 307 is on a 6-mile final for 3.4 left. So they're on 3.5. So there's traffic out the side there. Anyway, let's gears down. So we'll arm the speed brakes. Turn on the lights. That can just go to taxi. There's somewhere out there, I guess. Hopefully not right behind us. They did say 3.5. And we'll go to flat full. Cabin needs the ding. And we'll do landing checklist. Cabin crew advised auto thrust is in speed mode here on the PFD. Auto brake is set to 3. ECAM memo, landing there blue. That's the landing checklist complete. Let's see what we can do. So, high true airspeed, and now, sadly, turbulence. Plenty of excuses, all nicely filed before 1,000 feet, as is required. Yeah, so big problem with an airplane like this is, I imagine, if we don't want the wings to dip on landing because that outboard engine will get too close to the ground. So we need to keep the wings as level as we can. In the little Airbus, we have a little bit of room on that. We can actually dip a wing, which can help. The other thing is it's going to lose energy as we try and remove the drift, and I think it's going to be hard to get it to remove the energy without just dropping out the sky, especially when we have such a strict pitch limit. So we shall see what happens. I'm not too optimistic. If we need to do a bulk landing and just go around, I'm just going to go straight through to toga thrust and let the airplane climb away from the runway. Then I'll bring the flaps in one stage, and then we're going to make sure we have the FMAs of toga, SRS, go around, put it into nav mode, let it fly this. We'll climb straight up to 10,000 feet, and we can go and try again. We have 11 tons of fuel, plenty of fuel on board. Yeah, lowering flap 3 before the gear is not normal, but it is also completely acceptable. Right, here we go then. Wind is from the right, autopilot off. There's the land FMA. I hate hearing the engines spool down like that on approach. Just getting a little bit low. I'm going to struggle with the drift here. You can land with a bit of drift on. Oh.
Minimum 100, 50, 40, 30, 20, retard.
Idle. Left rudder. There's touchdown. Reverse. Okay, well, we'll see how that looked. It's very hard to judge. But that felt okay. Yeah, we're so light, having no trouble decelerating. So manual brakes, idle reverse, 70 knots. We'll take the next high speed to the right. There we go. Yeah, it's rough, windy. an airplane of this size to even feel it at all is quite unusual. And it, I think we did okay. Like what I was concerned about was, what I didn't want to happen was trying to remove the drift, causing a huge drop and therefore a heavy landing. And I think we avoided that. Left the power on a little bit longer just to help me counteract that if needed, and that seemed to work out. Yeah, good fun. One of the few sim landings I've done in a while that got my heart rate up. Oh dear, it's good fun. So let's get this bit right now. So welcome to Denver. Yeah, I am totally sold on the idea of taking the 146 for some flights out of here and to see some proper scenery, because of course this is quite basic default scenery we have right now. Let's just work this one out. So we can just cross at Whiskey Charlie and then go back. So yeah, we're going to leave the lights on and we'll go straight across. Denver traffic, Delta 307, crossing runway 34 right. Just in case someone out there is on approach. So we'll leave the flaps down. I don't want to worry about that. We'll leave the strobe lights on. No point making that difficult. Thanks very much, Adrian. 198 feet per minute. There we go. Well, this is a big, heavy airplane with a high airspeed. I think that's absolutely fine. And we'll see the replay soon. If you did enjoy the approach and landing, do please leave a like on YouTube. It makes a big difference. Or on Twitch, consider following. So this is one of the biggest, I think this is the second biggest airport by land area in the world. It is a huge, huge, huge airport. Lauren V would like the VOR approach for 01. Yeah, hey, you know, is that a particularly good one? Is there a reason I should like that one? Is that going to be particularly challenging? Because we can do lots of things in the 146 as long as it's radio nav aid for now. But that could be a good bit of fun. I have a video coming soon to those of you interested in the 146, BAE 146 from Just Flight, doing the London City Steep approach. And it's a very different sort of video. Very different to what I normally do. So just a bit of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. That'll be coming out soon enough, probably tomorrow. Right. We told everyone what we're doing. We've got all our lights on. We're going to go across here and then I'm going to take the outer taxiway. It says my hometown and it's part of the middle of nowhere. Excellent. Okay, clearing the runway, landing lights off, strobe lights back to auto. Going to head down to the terminal this way. You can't taxi this plane with one engine. No. Long haulers will shut down. I don't know what 4-engine ones do. 2-engine ones will occasionally shut down one engine, but that is assuming they're light enough. They can't taxi out on one engine like we can on short-haul aircraft. They're too heavy. They have much more of their weight dictated by fuel than we do.
Denver traffic, Delta 24.
The fuel on a short-haul airplane will be about 20% of its weight on takeoff, whereas on one of these it could be half. Right, flaps coming in. Let's get the speed up. Speed breaks it down. Lauren V taxied around on 2 engines. Okay, so 2 engines should be possible. I think I may have drifted slightly from centerline there. Let's see what else. Let's get the AP up and running. Flaps are in, lights are off. Weather radar, I can go off, off. Yeah. Let's try and keep it on the center line. We got a high 0 fuel weight, so I don't know if we'll be too heavy, but we can try shutting down a couple of engines. I imagine it would be the outboard engines. That would make most sense to me. Let's just figure out where we're parking. So we're going down to the A concourse. So we've got quite a long taxi to go. This is where we landed. We rolled out all the way along that. Only doing 22 knots. Cruise Simulation says it was fun flying with you. I'm the United 319 on the ground watching you. Excellent. I did see United out there. Thanks, Cruise. Thanks for coming along. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, it's a very different. Basically, to spoil it for you guys here, as you're here with me now, it's I don't know if you've seen those videos. I'm sure. No, I know you've all seen those videos. In fact, of real flight decks like Just Planes and so on, where they put several cameras on an airplane. So just for a bit of fun, and because the graphics are so nice going into London City and with the 146, I filmed the approach from the cockpit. No, I don't talk or anything like that, but you've got the audio of the co-pilot, and you've got the audio of the sim, obviously, which is excellent. Just Flight have done a great job. And then I've got that with different camera angles overlaid onto it. So you've got one view out the front and then a wing view in a little window. And then at the end, we've got the replay views with different wing views and an outside view and so on, all sort of overlaid at once, just like how they do it on those Just Plane style videos and ITVV videos. So a bit of fun, hopefully. Thakros, thanks for coming along. We will enjoy the city. We're going to have to stream from here soon. Maybe that'll be our next Microsoft Flight Simulator stream. It'd been a while since we've been in an Airbus. I certainly had to get an Airbus in the air. The channel loses its credibility even more. I have not heard about the A340, the announcement from Airbus. They don't need to do an April Fool's about supersonic airliners. I don't believe any of them anyway. Until I see one flying and going past the sound barrier. In fact, I'll take just seeing one flying at this point. We've had so many announced. Thank you to Peaks for the follow. So we're going to park up. Oh, I want to be on the right over here. That's where we reckon Delta go. That was a really nice approach. I enjoyed that. Nice to let the airplane do lots of managed stuff, and it'll be good fun to compare the scenery. I'm sure it should be very pretty in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Mr. Badman says, thanks for this flight and sharing your experience. You're very welcome. Now, there is no long-haul airplane that would do this. Taxi around at 18 knots doing turns. This is a very short haul thing to be driving this fast. Long haulers tend to go around at 5 knots. So we're going to have to carve across the apron and pick a stand. None of those stands look like they fit us in this monster. But this shows you, so it's the land area of this airport that make it the second biggest in the world, and you can see why. This is a ridiculously big airplane, and look at this, it just looks small. It's got, look how far apart the terminals are. Amazing. You could put 3 of these side by side and taxi them around. Well, none of these stands are going to work, so I'm going to take this one here. Five knots, like the drivers in Cornwall. Safety is available. Let's get rid of the lights. Those lights coming off. So we're going to park up and then have a replay very soon. Oh, wrong one. And let's do it. Let's lose engine 1 and 4. As it's rolling away on its own anyway. It was even on the taxi out. Greek Vader says, maybe slap a Southwest livery next time and taxi at 45 knots. Maybe we should. Let's go for A37, furthest away from the jetty that we can get. Yeah, I struggled. This airplane just doesn't fit anywhere. I struggled to find somewhere for it in Houston as well. Maybe that would have worked. I don't know. Is it an A330 now, says Mr. Banana? Yeah, pretty much. Now they get to cheat. Easiest airplane to park on the centre line. I love that Toliss updated this so that the nose wheel turns. I think that's a really nice touch. It was good to have it at all, to have a taxi camera, but now it turns. This is just... I really like this add-on, put it that way. I'm not ashamed to say it. I just enjoy flying it. I think this will fit nicely, actually. This will be probably the only stand we could do. Yeah, it's a long haul stand. We've got 2 jetties. Can we get that tail in? I'm going to ignore the yellow line, and we'll go with the red box. We don't quite make it though. No, not really. There we go. Right, brakes are set. AP's available. That's the end of that. Welcome to Denver. Sadly, the jet bridges won't be moving. This is default scenery. But yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed the flight. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks very much, Ed, for coming along. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, 146 video should be coming tomorrow. That's not 100% certain, but I will aim to release it tomorrow. Right. Let us have a look at the replay. So that's all worked out. Let's disconnect from VATSIM. Thank you to those of you who did fly along with us on VATSIM. Always appreciated. Oh, unreal how good the replay is, as I always say in X-Plane. Right. Yeah, we slowed down much quicker than I thought. Just shows how light we were. It's just how big this runway is. You can see the centerline deviation there. Thankfully, it's a big runway. So here's the drift. Here comes the left rudder. Squeaking the nose to the left, but then a bit of drift to the left. Too much rudder there, so nose starts to point to the left, and that drives us that way. Then we work our way back towards it. So that's a lesson for me. I had actually not as much drift as I thought, because the airplane was flying so fast. Left the power on because I felt the sink coming as I tried to remove the drift. Removed it there. Rudder, rudder, rudder. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Just a bit too much. We can actually see, you can see the rudder inputs in this add-on. So here came the rudder, bit late. There's the rudder. Then I put more, and then I held it. Just drifted downwind. Yep. Just a slightly extended flare. Pretty pleased with that though. We reached the runway at the right point. Just needed to yeah. So if you float, if you extend the flare too long, and I can see what I did right now. Actually, I can tell you what I did, which is it's probably the most typical mistake of a short-haul pilot flying a long-haul airplane. In the small Airbus, we are taught and trained to put ourselves over the centerline. So I'm sitting here. I've put myself as close as I can tell on the centerline. But look where the back of the airplane is. It is not over the centerline. I am perfectly, very proudly, at the back of the airplane is already off to the left. So when I now put in that left rudder, the nose comes to the left, and the whole airplane. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. This is not. I should have known this. There we go. I've put the rudder in, and now look, we are all sitting off to the left. So you combine that. That's what was going to happen anyway, and then add in the fact that while the flare is carrying on, we are being blown to the left the whole time. Hence, I did drop the wing a tiny bit. You can see me sitting slightly wing down. I'm not sure if that's allowed or not. That's what you might do in a 320. So there's that left rudder. So that's the mistake. There you go. We found it. We should have put ourselves... And this all happened at the briefing stage where I didn't think of that. And right from here, this landing was going to go left of the centerline after touchdown. It was guaranteed to happen because of where we placed ourselves. How funny. I haven't thought about that. I don't fly aircraft that need me to think about that in that way. So what we should have had is a view not of this, which looks great to me because I think I'm on the centerline. We should have looked like we're on the right, and then that would have worked. We would have then moved the nose to the left, and everything worked out nicely. Otherwise, the flare, the drift removal was okay, and instead of being here, left of the runway centerline, with the wind blowing us further left, we'd have been perfectly on it, and we could have touched down, and worst case, a little bit left. So that explains it. Yeah. Plus a little overcorrection to the left there. Again, would have been several meters this way, and it wouldn't have looked so untidy. That's cool. That just shows you that Toliss got this airplane right. You know, the center of gravity, the way it moved around its weight, the way it takes so long to respond. These things all feel heavy in this airplane. I like it a lot. It really feels like the monster it is, which is one of the heaviest, longest aircrafts ever used commercially. You know, it's just massive. Right, Christy, no worries at all. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Dougal. Yeah, thanks so much for listening to me rabbit on. But yeah, let us... Oh, well, actually, no, we're going to have this view, aren't we, before we go? The great thing about this view as well is it hides all of that. You won't be able to tell. It'll just look like we're landing. Those dangly gears into the flare. Touchdown. Love it. Again, it's like an event. Good. So we've seen enough of that. Let's go and put it back somewhere on approach, probably around the 7,500 foot range. And we're going to have the music and do the outro. So I'm going to start saying my thank yous. Thank you all for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. Love flying this airplane. Plenty more videos in lots of different airplanes to come, including the... let's go a bit further back, actually, seeing as we're in a slightly faster airplane here. Hear the engine spooling up and down. Yeah, let's try that. I could have misjudged this. I think this view is my favourite still. I like the seeing all the big engines. Yeah, so thank you for coming along. Thank you to those of you who've chatted and those who just watched. We really appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, do please leave a like on the way out. Thanks to those who very kindly donated. Really very generous and very kind of you. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching along on both Twitch and YouTube. Remember, choose your favourite platform. They're on both still for now. And thanks to those of you who have been just contributing. And of course, to the moderators for taking the time to come and look after us. Really, really appreciate it. More streams to come. Video coming in the next couple of days with the Just Flight 146 into London City. Very different style of video, but a bit of fun. On the channel now, you have the VNAV video if you haven't seen that, as well as a few other tutorials over the last few weeks. And there'll be more to come soon, as well as more live streams. Really enjoying the live streams at the moment. So, yeah, thank you all for making them so much fun. And I will say, keep safe and well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.